All right. Just about to go live here. Welcome, everybody. Sunday, May 11th. Hash Church, episode 19. And yes, I did make a mistake. I thought it was episode 16 or 18 today. Totally shat the bed, but I figured it out. We can talk about that a little bit later on. But welcome, everybody, to Hash Church, season 11, episode 19. We are here on May 11th. I hope you did remember it's Mother's Day. Yes, it is Mother's Day. We love the mothers. To all the mothers whose love weaves the fabric of our lives, your heart is a garden where kindness blooms, nurturing dreams with gentle hands and unwavering strength. Through sleepless nights and joyful days, you paint the world with warmth, your laughter a melody that lingers in our souls. Today we celebrate you, all the mothers, your boundless grace, your quiet courage, your love that holds us forever. Happy Mother's Day from hearts grateful beyond words. And to my personal wife and mother of my children, for Charlene, the heart of Mother's Day shines in your unwavering motherhood. A radiant beacon of love and sacrifice, as a nurturer, you cradle our family's dreams with boundless care. Your strength weaving a tapestry of warmth and security. As the all-around matriarch, you guide with grace your love and eternal flame that lights every moment. Happy Mother's Day, Charlene. Your legacy of devotion is a gift beyond measure. I love you dearly. All right, now we will shout out, as we often do, our sponsors for making this happen. We appreciate you. Shout out to the Press Club, trusted by top hash makers from around the world since 2016. The Press Club is your one-stop shop for award-winning solventless gear, from press bags to wash bags to presses to vessels. You'll find everything you need from wash to press. We're big fans of the Press Club and what they're doing in the community, so we're excited to have them on board as an official sponsor for Hash Church. Made in the USA, the patented pink stitch, zero blowout guarantee, small family owned business, free expedited shipping on $75 or more. International shipping available. Visit them at www.thepressclub.co and use the code HashChurch to take 10% off of your purchase. So shout out to those homies. And shout out to Puffco. Huge shout out to Puffco for powering Hash Church, really. Puffco's game-changing devices like the Sleek Peak Pro, the versatile Proxy, and the compact Pivot bring unmatched style and performance, making extracts a vibe for everyone. Their passion for cannabis culture keeps our community blazing strong. Discover the Puffco difference at www.puffco.com and follow at Puffco. Yeah. Last and certainly but not least, bubble bags. We stand out as the premier choice for water hash extraction, and it's no surprise why. We're the original innovators who set the standard for quality and performance, crafted with durability in mind. These bags come with a lifetime warranty, ensuring you're covered for years of consistent use. The team behind Bubble Bags takes pride in our pioneering legacy, backing every product with unwavering confidence and a commitment to excellence, making them the trusted go-to for enthusiasts and professionals alike seeking top-tier hash extraction results. You can check us out at www.bubblebag.com. And yes, if you use the code HashChurch10, you will also find there is a nice little discount in there for you. So, without further ado, I'm going to welcome my good friend Ruben Valenzuela from Barcelona. We're going to get him into the room. I just met Ruben last March, just a couple months ago, month and a half ago. We met each other at the last and final Barcelona Spanibus. So yes, after many years, God, it's got to be 22 or 23 years. They're no longer going to be at the Hospitalet at the La Fiera, the building that they were in, I guess, is being demolished. But that's where Ruben and I met. So welcome, Ruben. How you doing, brother?
Good, bro. Thank you very much for having me here. It's just a pleasure to stay with you, and it was such an honor as well to meet you in Barcelona. So super excited to be here today.
Awesome, man. Yeah, when I met Ruben, he was holding like a kilo or a pound of beautiful, they almost looked like penis envy mushrooms, some Stropharia cubensis, I was quite certain. And just walking around with this giant smile on his face and this big bag of mushrooms, giving people like ounce, giant 20, 30 gram mushrooms. I think he gave me one right away. I ended up actually, funny enough, Ruben, that mushroom you gave me, I had so much stuff in my hand. I asked a girl who was next to me, can you hold this for a second? And she's like, oh yeah, no problem. Like 5 minutes later, after we finished our conversation, I said, hey, can I get that mushroom? And she was like, what? I gave it away. I thought you wanted me to give it away. I was like, what? But of course, it's always nice to share the good vibes of the psilocybe.
As it should be, yes, yes. It was a pleasure and honor, and actually it was a really good Spanish. As you said, the last one in Barcelona, I think until
Yeah.
we are going to have a regulation in Spain, hopefully in 7, 10 years, who knows?
Listen, Spain, in my opinion, at least in regards to the resin, in regards from coming from the perspective of live hash rosin and bubble hash, Spain is damn near at the top of the game. They've climbed so high over the years in regards to how good the resin is. It's really blown me away. I think it was 2012, 2013 that I actually, both Soma and I do want to give Soma a little shout out as well. I meant to do that earlier. Soma is doing much better. He's eating, he's up and at 'em, he can talk again. Just throw up a little shot of me and Soma here from my last trip to Amsterdam, also about a month and a bit ago. And so they're talking about potentially discharging him. I'm not sure if you heard, Ruben, but Soma had stopped taking his epilepsy, his seizure medicine, and it really mucked him up. And he ended up having a ton of really bad seizures. He's very old. He's like 75 now. So to have that kind of like trauma to your body, he wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping. And so it warms my heart to tell the community that Soma is doing much better. And you can go and follow him at Soma Seeds or at Soma Mission on Instagram, and go send him a nice positive message. He's the kind of guy that would really like that. In the meantime, what I would love for you to do, Ruben, is maybe give a little introduction to the Hash Church group in regards to a little bit of your history, how you kind of got into cannabis, a little bit of your school and what you kind of went through, and then we can get into your company.
Perfect, thank you. So actually, my father was already in the regulation of the cannabis industry since a long, long time. We were growing weed at home since I'm young. Usually, yeah, trimming, curing, drying, doing hash as well with my father. And then suddenly, I finished my first degree in industrial engineering in Barcelona, and then I moved to the Netherlands. I was lucky. I started working in BioBeat Worldwide in 2009. It's one of the companies that produce solid and liquid fertilizers for the cannabis industry.
That's
And then
BioBiz.
BioBeat, yes, in the
BioBiz.
Netherlands, in Groningen. That was how I started. And then I was really lucky because I developed the new bottle, but I was really looking forward to start in the research. So I moved into the research department. I studied agricultural engineering, my third degree in Barcelona, and then we start moving on with the development of the products. This is where I discovered in the University of Barcelona, Agricultural University of Barcelona, the NIR, no, the technology to use light to analyze it, and actually they use it with tomatoes, and I was like, wow, fascinated. They were able to breed all thousands of plants of tomatoes just with one unit and then with light. And I was like, I really want to do it with cannabis. That's possible? No, let's figure it out. Back in that times, Gmaser start. Actually, we had a company. I had few companies. I had one of the biggest nurseries in Europe. We were selling CBD clones into all Europe, and then actually we received a grant by the European Union, 500,000 grant that helped us to develop NIR models for the cannabis industry. And basically, like yes, we did it. At the start, we started with a benstock unit. It was a really big unit, really expensive. It was working. Actually, we were doing breeding programs with that unit. It was amazing. But then suddenly we were looking for a new tool that would be easier for people to have it. Actually, we developed the system just for us. But when we saw the potential and the things that we could do with it, was like, wow, let's do it. And yeah, year by year, we are improving. Right now, we have this small unit that you know, and that luckily, yeah, we are gonna see each other soon, and you will have one to play with it. And basically, it's a technology that uses the light to analyze. So basically, you just put the sample. You can use a leaf to analyze the nutrient intake of the plant, a flower to know the potency of the terpenes, or even an extraction. So you will be able to know the potency in less than a minute of any of these components. That's more or less a really short of my history.
Yeah, dude, that is awesome. I just want to show the unit a little bit here on the website. Just give a little, this little portable terpene and cannabinoid laboratory. I have seen a ton of these different things from Orange Photon. I had the GemmaCert. The GemmaCert, one of my big complaints with the GemmaCert was that I did figure out how to make it work, but I had to be in a room where no one was breathing or talking or moving or opening a door or closing a door or fucking unzipping their zipper. Like literally, if you moved around this fucking thing, it just wouldn't be accurate. And when I first met Ruben and he started showing me this thing, I was like, he was doing it at the event, which right off the bat, you could never do testing with the GemmaCert at an event. The table alone would be rocking too much, but all the people. And then I'm asking him, I'm like, how could you do that? He's like, listen, man, I did this on a train. I can do this on a moving train, which kind of caught my attention. It was very fast. It was within a minute. Can you explain a little bit about NIR and how it kind of works? And also, welcome to Wade, dude. Nice to see you early in the room, brother. Wade is in Nevada City in California, Ruben, and he's one of our elders. And he was one of the gentlemen responsible for producing the Harlequin, the CBD cultivar. So he's a real incredible elder of Hash Church. So we're lucky to have him with us, nice and early today. He's been a little bit sick lately. He's been fighting some pretty serious health ramifications. But every day that I see him, when I see Wade come in at 9:10, I know today's a good day.
Nice. Welcome, Wade. Such a pleasure. And later on, we can talk about this strain. I really like it, love it. I grow it a lot here in Europe. So I really, thanks a lot for your work into that way. So basically, NIR use light. It's really nice to see that the vibration of the organic molecules, all of us, we are actually vibrating. And this is we have a relation between the absorption of the light related with the vibration of any kind of material, pen, a paper, or whatever, a vat. So basically what we're gonna do is with this system, we will be able to send a lot of light. It's actually like sending like small balls, boop, 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 boop. And then we have a detector that will let us know, according to the vibration of these molecules, how it's gonna be. So actually what we are gonna do is we are gonna send a lot of light and then we are gonna see what is gonna reflect. That is gonna be related with the vibration of the organic molecules. After 7 years feeding the system with many thousand samples, we actually have been able to see a relation between the absorption of the light and the different components that we have. And mainly is actually amazing. It's really quick. It could be really specific, but there is only one thing that you cannot see less than 100 ppms. So this is a solution for breeders, for growers, for any kind of producer or quality control. But for example, it will be really difficult or almost impossible to see pesticides or heavy metals. By the other side, we are going to be able to do a lot of samples all in one. So once we are doing a sample of a flower, for example, we are using 4 devices in one. And this is, I think, one of the best things of NIR is that we can unit the HPLC together with the GCMS, the humidity meter, and the water activity meter all together in 1 minute. And that's it. It's actually using the absorption of the light. I think this is a technology that it has been used a lot in the pharma industry, in the feed industry, in the food industry. But I think we are going to see coming many more of these systems. Actually, I've been seeing NIRs in a supermarket in Japan, where actually you buy an orange and then you pay according to the weight and to the concentration of vitamin C. So actually you can take different batches of oranges and you will be able not to analyze quicker. And actually, as I told you, and I show you, Marcus, there is a really big company. I cannot say the name, but actually you go to their salon and they take the NIR and they scan your hair. And actually they are going to produce a shampoo according to the quality of your hair in just in that moment to be able to do that. So at the end, it's going to be a technology that is going to be really soon. I hope in 5 to 10 years, we will be able to have it here in the phone. So that will be a game changer in our sense of, I think, consumers, we are going to be able to have real the power. Once we are going to be able to have a technology as easy as light to shoot light in any of the products that we consume, and then knowing the reality, if it's true or not, what's going on. I think that's going to be a really game changer in the fucking world.
So you're shooting light at these molecules, the light is emitting a shadow which creates a texture, and that texture is what you perceive to understand as the results of the unit.
Yes, exactly, more or less like that. Yes,
Jesus Christ.
I think that's gonna be a game changer. Actually, we know, no, like for example, once we are comparing the iron content of a vegetable that is a bio vegetable or a regular, or let's say regular vegetable, once we see the analysis, we see that they are way better, no, the bio. But we don't know. We actually just buy one because we taste better, or we don't know. I think once we are going to have this kind of technologies, when we are going to be able to really know what we are consuming. And right now, I think it's a game changer. I remember us doing the breeding programs with an HPLC. Usually it takes 20 minutes each round. So we would be able to work in 8 hours to do around 30, 40 a day. Once you had like 3,000 plants, it was like a pain in the ass because only with one HPLC, we were not able to run all the long lines. With this baby, fuck, man, like we just take the samples, 1 minute each one, pa, 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 pa. In one day we do 400.
Dude, and what's, I mean, the cost of an HPLC versus the cost of one of these units. I mean, you could probably have 10 of these units working in a 3,000 plant operation and still be under the cost of an HPLC.
Yes, and not only the cost of the SPLC is also the reagents, because here we don't have
Mm.
any reagents. You don't need any technical people. And actually, one of the things that I really like, we validate many samples every month. And usually every 500, there is one with one or two with human error. So many times people just take the sample, but could have a small mistake, just filtering, waiting, or just in all the process that are human actions, no, into all that process. Here, there is no human error. It's actually not possible unless you don't put properly the sample. So yeah, you don't have reagents. You don't need technical people, and actually you can run way more without reagents. I think it's a game changer. I think we will always need the HPLC for really a small components, as I said before, but for a regular components and in general, yes, this is a nice tool.
Can we speak a little bit about how you can check the nutrition of the plant health? While I noticed on your page it says get instant accurate nutrient insights from dried leaves.
Yes, yes. Actually, I think this is the best future we have. And for me, was the real revolution. Because let me tell you, okay, it's nice. And later on, we can talk about, okay, the potency. We are doing phenohunting. I really want to check the terpene profile with the potency. It's nice. It's really useful. But once you are able to analyze the nutrient intake with all these nutrients in 1 minute from all your strains, you are going to realize that each strain is going to have different requirements as humans. Wait, you and me, we are going to have different requirements of different vitamins and components that we eat. So it's the same with the cannabis plant. This is a system that we've been seeing NIR systems for this nutrition analysis in other crops, in tomato, for example, or in olive oil. And basically, what I did, and I think no one did it with NIR. We are the only company right now that we offer that system. Is basically train the system, take many samples from many different countries, actually analyze it with an ICP, that is the technology that analyze the nutrients, and the nitrogen analyzer, and actually see the vibration that is related to that. This is a really super game changer. Why? Because you are going to be able to check day by day. You check in the middle of the plant, you take a leaf, you dry it, you analyze it, and then you are going to be able to, let's say, imagine, we know that the nitrogen should be within 3 and 4%, depending on the flowering week. So you are able to see, wow, I'm in 2.2. I should add more nitrogen. But then you actually could add molasses, the kind of, or any kind of nutrients that you are using. But it's really good because next day or in 2 days, you can actually again go and pick up the leaf. Oh, we're in 2.6. Okay, it's good. Hey, we're doing good. Let's add more. So it's a way of being able to analyze that. I think this is a game changer because once we are able to feed the plant perfectly, it's really changing. Less problems, better performance, better profile of terpenes, more cannabinoids. At the end, you are feeding the plant in the perfect way, and yeah, it's an amazing to see the difference that are in the same with different strains. No, so I've been visiting many facilities, and most of them they have one regular nutrition program for all the strains. It's like wow, and then actually we analyze them later on. We can check data and things, and then you will see that some of them they are overfeeded and underfeeded. So with that system, we're going to be able to have groups. This is what we do usually. So we have high, neutral, or lower demand on different nutrients, and then we can actually have different rooms with these different phenotypes or cultivars.
Beautiful. How exciting, man. Like that is exciting. I mean, really, the ability to do that. I mean, obviously the base model, right? You see that the advantage to some companies would be that, hey, in-house testing, you could test for your cannabinoid content, you could test for your terpene content, you could kind of watch it. Maybe if you were trying to grow a one-to-one, you could watch the tests as you're waiting for the CBD and the THC to line up one-to-one, harvest it at that perfect time. I do appreciate that kind of concept where we are giving ourselves sight to where we were previously blind, you
Yes,
know?
and for me, the most important, like, I'm really, really looking forward to see where are the limits of the NIR because I have many ideas. I would really like to, I don't know if I can say it in the program, but many new things that I think we could jump into that. And I still think that there is a huge future for this technology. What I'm gonna do actually, what we are doing is basically seeing how these other crops, and especially really big crops like tomato, how industries are using NIR into that, and then we try to see and copy. So, wow, virus detection, ah, and many others that are like, yeah, you will see them. We will see them really soon, and it's just a matter of investing, researching, and trying. I've been doing many models that sometimes they don't work, and yeah, you need a try. But I'm sure that there are gonna be many more applications that soon are gonna come. I cannot wait until you have one unit and we go around
Yes.
and eat
I
together.
know, dude, your passion is palpable, honestly. Like it is completely palpable. And what I mean by that is it's oh, what's the word? It's contagious. It's like it makes me feel good. Your excitement makes me feel good. I love, meeting new people in the industry that are just completely stoked. And I've said it before, and it's not an insult to the people who held this community and industry on their back for a very long time. You yourself said your father was a grower, so you came from a multi-generational cannabis situation. But I will say that it's nice to see as we broaden the strokes of cannabis science and cannabis, you know, experimentation, that we get these great new young people involved that are really some of the best of the best. And I'm not saying that we didn't have the best of the best before, but it was, that being the best back in the day it wasn't one of the boxes you needed to check. It was basically like, how big were your balls? Do you have big enough balls to do this? That was the box we were all checking. If you were willing to be like, oh, whatever, it's a 10-year sentence, but I'm just going to sell some pounds and flip some weed and be involved in the industry. And now with all of that gone, you get a really great group of people who are coming into this to be like, look, I want to learn about this. I want to use my mind to figure out some different pathways where we can take this. I mean, obviously, from myself as a lifer in this industry and community, I love to see things like this. The ability to have. I'm super excited for you to come out here actually and visit. And we're gonna cruise around to maybe a couple of different LPs. My buddy Flav421, I talked to him the other day. He said he has like 100 cultivars on the Sunshine Coast. He said, "Come on over. We'll do." Ruben will do that in 100 minutes. How about that? 100 cultivars, 100 minutes. Wade has his hand up. Let's hear from Wade.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Um, yeah, I wanted to start by thanking you, Ruben. Your excitement and enthusiasm uh, is only too rare in the cannabis industry these days, at least amongst the folk I know. And I, you are addressing a dream of every cultivator, at least any of them that cared about what they were doing. For years, I wanted to know what was going on with my plants, and I had to be intuitive about it. I couldn't have you're proposing that your device can provide that kind of guidance in-house on a day-to-day basis. Should it be true? And don't take me wrong, I see you nodding, so you understand where I'm coming from. But yeah, if what you're describing is what your device is capable of, you are potentially changing the cannabis industry from the cultivator's point of view, at least, and then the product manufacturers will benefit from that, and then the patients will benefit from that. So thank you, Ruben. A real blast of enthusiasm and youth, and you go, dude. Thank you. And thank you, Marcus. Really nice to be here today.
Yeah, it's nice to see you, Wade. You sound good.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Wei. Super amazing. Actually, I was thinking about how you did read, no, all these CBD strains, and at least when we were doing it, we were spending a lot of money in the HPLC, and as you said, in that kind of sense, with this new technology, is way easier to start. One of the things that I would like to do, Marcus, when we start working together and doing like working, just having fun together, it could be to do a validation. No, actually, we can talk about that, and perhaps we can pick up 10, 15, 5 samples, and then we just boom, boom, we analyze it in the program, and like we send it just to validate it. We actually do a lot of validations, and I think that actually would be really nice. And one of the things that I was planning to talk that I'm really excited as well is Marcus being able to offer a class in the master course we are doing at the University of Barcelona. I'm the president
Mm.
of the Cannabis Hub. This is an ecosystem that actually helped us to develop this technology, the NIR, in a sense of being able to unite different companies and research centers. And we offer a master, is called Science and Politics of Cannabis at the University of Barcelona, where actually I think this is also something that we were having a huge lack. No, when I was studying, I remember back in the times where they were not even papers on cannabis, so just some on hemp and not that really deep. And right now we have plenty of scientific papers, and right now few other masters. I think this is an honor, and as we were talking, I think you have a lot to say. Even you could even recommend, perhaps if we check into the program, other people that would like to share the knowledge into that course. I'm so excited as well. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to getting into the institutions. I gotta say, I helped out this woman, Christine, who did one at the University of British Columbia. She reached out to a lot of really great people. She probably had a list of 15 to 20 top minds in cannabis, people that really moved the goalposts in regards to part of the industry and community. People like Hillary Black from the BC Compassion Club and many more. So anytime I can be involved in a course or kind of gaining access to passionate, excited young minds, I think that that's great. I'm not generally, overly stoked on the sometimes the way the underlining it's almost hard to say and put it into language, but often universities, they take a path that I'm not overly happy about in regards because they have access to these young minds, and it's a very big responsibility to make sure that you're not censoring too much and you're leaving an open swath and you're really allowing these young people to sort of think for themselves. And I'm sure at the University of Barcelona being such a sort of progressive, cool, hip city, I'm sure the university is probably pretty amazing too.
Yeah, yeah. Before we were working with the University Polytechnic of Catalonia, and it was a bit tough. Like actually, my classes, I should just show one thing to the teacher, and once I was going to the class, I changed, and then I teach all the students how we were doing all the other stuff in the companies. But right now, it's a bit more flexible, and actually, I think it's really nice. We have many experts, and I think you should be there. So it would be a pleasure. Let's talk about it later on and then see how we can enter into that.
Absolutely. No, that sounds quite amazing. Today is, of course, Mother's Day, so we've got a lot of our panelists mothering this morning. I know Colin was going to try to make it in a little bit later, probably around, 12 PST time. Chimera is actually in Spain right now. He's hanging out with a couple of the top cannabis lawyers, and they're off on an adventure. And I'm not sure if Etienne is still on the boat. He was on a boat cruise. It was unfortunate because he came in last week, but we were so deep in conversation, we weren't even really able to acknowledge and have a conversation with him. But we might see Etienne a little bit later on as well. And yeah, just excited to be here on another Sunday. Next Sunday, we have a really good show. We're going to be inviting Robert Connell Clark on, the author of Marijuana Botany, worked with Skunkman Sam for many, many years. One of his best friends, really, wrote the book Hashish, was involved with pests, the hemp and pest book as well. Tons of incredible history from Rob. I'm only going to have a couple of panelists on, and we're really going to keep it tight. And it's going to be unlike most hash churches in the sense that it'll really be an interview with Rob to share sort of his history and his story from working in Malberg's lab to hooking up with Hortifarm to really writing the book Hashish to doing. He's got such an incredibly diverse history when it comes to cannabis. He's traveled all over the world, much like Dave. And I think that it's going to be a very, very, very good episode. I've got Fletch and Ryan Lee Chimera sort of organizing and creating some questions. So that'll be next week, and we're looking really forward to that. I'm not even sure where Rob will be. I don't know if he's at
I
home
think I think he's in Asia. I have a really good relation with Rob. One of my
Nice.
teachers at the University of Barcelona told me, "Hey, Ruben, there is someone that wants to come and see some hemp crops." Back in that time, I was doing few hectares in the north of Catalonia, and
Nice.
suddenly I went to the university and was like, "You are Rob? Oh man, I know you! Wow, the book, everything! Like, what the fuck?" So he went with me. We checked the crops. I freak out. How he know? I showed him the device and he was like, wow, man, let's play. So he stayed 1 week with me at home. We were together having a lot of fun. Please tell him we were together because I really love him. For me, it's like my idol. Is one of the top ones. Actually, if you check, I'll send you, we have a video. He came to the University of Barcelona and he had one of the best cannabis talks showing how he was breeding many amazing hemp varieties. And the last time that I was talking with him, he was I think, in Asia, doing some stuff, really, really curious. So I really like him, and I'm so happy. I will come for sure to see him next week in the next charter. Top, top, top one.
That's so awesome. Of course, you've had the experience with Rob. I can see you guys getting along in a big, big way. He's also very passionate. He's super knowledgeable.
Super.
And yeah, it's I was the same way when I first met Rob, I've been lucky enough to become friends with him over the years. And yeah, there was years ago in Amsterdam, I showed this picture last year, but I used to stay at the Krasnopolski in Amsterdam. There's some apartments in the back end, so I wouldn't stay in the front, the fancy part of the hotel, but I'd stay at the back. And we'd always have to walk through the kitchen, through the back little hallway to get to the apartment from the front of Dam Square. And one year we were walking by and I said, Rob, look at all this ice. They'd laid out all this ice. And of course, I'm the ice hash guy. So I got this photo of me and Rob
Ah,
standing on the mountain of ice, and Rob's making the funny face. Good times, man. Good times. Lots of good times with Rob in Amsterdam, man. Like backstage with Steel Pulse, Amlak Tafari, the bass player. We're sitting at the Melkweg smoking Ruhr bongs in the audience of Steel Pulse. And towards the end of the show, Rob's like, "Hey, you want to go backstage? I'm friends with the bass player." And I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, dude, let's do it." And he goes backstage, and the guy was his name is Amlak Tafari. He was talking to someone else, but when he caught Rob, a glimpse of Rob out of the corner of his eye, he stopped immediately. He was like, "Rob, my brother!" and walked over, gave him a big hug, and introduced me. And it was like one of those it was really one of those good experiences backstage. I generally don't like going backstage at concerts because it's like if I don't know the group or the people, it's just a weird kind of awkward vibe. But this was like, going over to like a buddy's house or something. It was just a really good vibe. So shout out to Amlak Tafari and Robert Connell Clark. We'll see Rob next week, and maybe he'll tell us some Amlak Tafari stories. We'll have to see.
Nice, nice. Something that I really love from Rob is that he's super young. Like he's like smiling, smoking for sure, always having a really positive vibe and a lot of energy always. I like him a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's part of his nomadic lifestyle. He's been traveling for, I would say, over 40 years. It might be 45 plus, but he travels a lot. He's been to a ton of countries. I used to go visit him in Amsterdam when he had his apartment there off the Tolstraat near the greenhouse, and like starting in early 2000s. And he had all these beautiful textiles that he had collected from around the world, hemp textiles. He also had hemp harvesting tools from hundreds of years ago, and just like really great historical context. He's a real historian when it comes to different cultures and their cannabis use and their hemp use. And it's not surprising, or it doesn't take a brain surgeon to see the connection for him and Dave Watson to link up. And, hopefully next week he'll tell the story of how he met Dave, how he first heard of Dave, where they kind of linked up, because that's a story. Funny enough, being friends with both of them for over 25 years, I don't actually know that story.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll have to check it out. We
Sure.
will have to check it out. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So Mother's Day today, it'll probably be a little bit of a shorter church today. I'll go till around noon instead of 1 p.m. We'll do about 3 hours today. Um, because everyone's got to spend time with the moms today, even if it's just in your mind. Maybe your mom's long gone. Maybe she's still around. If she is, reach out, give her a squeeze. Boy, the moms sure do a lot for us in this life. I mean, right from the beginning, birthing us into life. That's a pretty big, like, first move. And then nurturing and caring for us for all of these years. It's definitely special. Oh, nice, Ruben. I just got your photos. That's awesome.
We had a lot of fun. Rob is a super master. Like we had 2 hectares of CBT. I was breeding CBT back in that time. So I was thinking about like 2020. And he went there. He's
Okay.
like, "What? You are trying to do a monoic?" It's like, "Yes." Oh wow, that. We start just walking through all the field, and he was like, "Wow, let's mark the best phenotypes. I'm gonna stay 1 week with you if you want." And like, yes, please, let's do it. So we select a few of them that actually we continue breeding. It was amazing. I was shocked with all his knowledge and the passion that he had, and being super young. Like we were long times at the field, and he was like, "No, let's continue, no
Yeah.
problem."
Well, that's
Five
that nomadic lifestyle, right? Like if you're, as you get older, the thing that gets the hardest for me, at least, and I'm only 52, Wade's probably laughing at me, um, travel. Travel becomes harder. And to see someone that's like in, late 60s, early 70s, just rocking it out and traveling and getting on planes, and that definitely can keep you young in a sense if it doesn't break you. That
Totally
is for
agree.
sure.
Yes.
That is for sure. Just getting a couple of messages here. I'm almost thinking of Logan's still unable to come in today. Logan got some Wook flu or some redneck flu in Oklahoma. His tonsils swole up. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Wolverine Dabs. He's been doing the ATS jet sieving of dry sift lately. You see the jet sieve, it's like a vacuum with a screen, and he's purifying heads with this unit from Mach Technologies called the ATS Pro. It's really, really cool. So it kind of fits into Sambo filtration with I'm sure you've seen in Spain there, the Sambo filtration or the Ion Industries. I think they both do that crazy static filtration plasmatic sifting unit. So you really can kind of see that, like, we are traveling into the future with cannabis. I mean, from the time rosin came to be, to static sift coming out to technologies like what you're talking about. It's really, really wild. That is the other thing I was going to say about your technology. I found that the GemaCert could do flour okay, but it couldn't really do oils and like hashes. Your unit does oils and hashes no problem. We tested some, I think it was rosin when I was there with you at the booth there in Barcelona.
Yes. Actually, like we still cannot, we don't do oils. We do all kind of extractions, CO2 extractions, ethanol extractions, rosins, bubble hash, dry, all kind of extractions. Oil is gonna come soon, but the problem is that every oil has a different vibration. And if we would like to have a model for an oil, we should do it with all kind of different oils. So this is why we better prefer to do the raw material before companies they mix it with the oil in the case that they are doing this kind of
Oh, you
oils.
mean like plant fat oils?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But in any case, all kind of extractions, we're gonna play a lot, and yeah, I'm really curious to see. Actually, I think there is a relation between the content of THC and the quality. You will let me know better, but for example, rosins, we have rosins from 60 to 90% of THC. And usually the 60 are like, let's say, normal or not that good, and the 90 ones are usually are the ones that has wow. And actually, we've been developing the therapy model that still we don't have it for the extractions, and I was really surprised to see rosins with 14% of terpenes. I'm sure you've been seeing many of them, but in any case, I think this is gonna be. Yeah, it's gonna work. Actually, it works better with extraction than with flour. Flour is an heterogeneous material that is not as easy to have it homogeneous, but the extraction is super homogeneous, so it's easy to analyze it, and yeah, really
Very
good
cool.
repeatability and measurement. Yeah. We will test a lot, I'm sure.
Where do you see the future of this going? Like, what are the sort of low-hanging fruit that you see when you talk to companies that are like, this is what you're going to be able to do with this unit. If you don't want to go too deep, this is the most basic sort of helpful things that you can do with our unit.
That's a super good question. So why I think, and we are working with few companies to see how we can integrate this technology in order to unit with the SOPs of any producer, for example, to check every day different cultivars, then analyze the nutrient intake of the plant, then unit with an IPA, the irrigation system. We have a lack in phosphor. Hey, let's add more phosphorum, and then actually see how this integration could be automatic. So in a sense that people will go through the crop, will select the leaf, we put it on the system, but the system itself will let you know, hey, we have this proposal for you to check it out. This is from the part of the nutrition, but also the potency. If we will mark, there are clones in a room or in a field that are similar, we can check flowers in the same height, and then suddenly every 3-4 days we take them, dry them, and analyze. We will see the curve. So we are gonna see how our THC content, if it's a chemotype 1, is increasing, and then we will see when it's gonna drop down. Actually, we have the CBG that will go up to 1% mostly in most of the strains, and then go down. And after this part that the CBG start going down, then the THC. And this is supposed to be the perfect harvest time. So in any case, a point of being able to introduce this technology with an SOPs that could be integrated into the system for, yeah, to improve the quality of our production. So to be able to perform perfect nutrition, to do it in the best way, and try to just, yeah, improve the way as we are doing it. Do you need it? I mean, I think so. It depends on you. You could do a good crop without it. Yes. But if you have it, you will for sure way more, no? And at the end, the future, I think is gonna let us know about many other things with the NIR, and this is just the start. As I told you, like this technology is really old, but it usually used to be like a big room, and then suddenly we start having the best of units that are really big. And I know this small tool is actually this chip is super small, so let's see, as I said before, if in 5 to 10 years we'll be able to have a similar system in the phone. I think it still is gonna take a long time. Cyware, the company that developed the hardware, it took 15 years. They have 150 patents with this baby. Oh, it's not easy. But the future is so bright, amazing, and what I've been seeing is that this technology is gonna be going over all different industries, especially the industries that we consume, the commodities, and I think it's gonna be super good, as I said before. So imagine you being able, Marcus, to go to buy your fruits, and then suddenly you check, I don't know, as I said, the orange. No, hey guys, let's buy. We have three types of oranges. Let's check. Boom, 0.5% of vitamin C. What? 1% of vitamin C. What? 3% of vitamin C. But you will buy the three. So what it means that producers will say, oh, people is not only looking for the flavor or the color, or it's actually they care about the content, which is I'm agricultural engineer, and this is crazy. Like humanity has been improving the way of producing way more kilograms, but not quality foods. So I think this is why I'm really passionate to see that this technology is gonna allow us to really know what we are consuming, especially in fruits, vegetables, and food that is actually affecting a lot our system. So I think it's gonna be a way that we are gonna be able to press producers or even the consumers are gonna be selecting. So what it means that if you are doing a orange that is a lot of weight but does not have any vitamin C, right now you will sell it because you don't know it. But in the future, once we will have these babies, it will be like, oh man, they don't buy my oranges. Why? Because you are fucking like, yeah, putting a lot of water and you don't take care of actually the content. So, this is the future, empowering the consumers and being able to select and to know what we actually consume.
This is actually incredible, dude. That orange example that you gave, that because when you said one day maybe we'll have it in our phone, I thought, well, yeah, okay. Like, do you need it in your phone though for a cannabis field? But going to the grocery store and hitting all of the vegetables and fruits and foods, grains that you're eating, being able to see what was left behind or the quality or caliber, like you said, it's like, 100 years ago, a plate of food, the nutrition and the density of that nutrition on that plate of food, today, that plate of food has to be 4 or 5 times the size to be able to have the same nutritional level that it used to have. And I'm sure it speaks volumes to why obesity is out of control. And then the processing of plants. Wow, that is a really crazy concept to be able to like know how good the fruit is going to taste almost because you're measuring, the aromatic volatiles that are being expressed through the peel, of the orange or the cherry or the whatever. That is absolutely mental, dude. I didn't
It
think
is.
about that.
This is amazing. And also, we didn't talk about the mushroom psilocybin model
Well,
that
let's
we.
talk about that.
Yes, yes, yes. That's a really nice one, and this is unique. No one has that. That's neither not the plantisu, not the psilocybin. So I have a really good friend. It's actually my partner, Santiago Ongay. He's the owner of one of the best breeding companies in terms of developing strains with high psilocybin contents. And basically, like when I went to them in 2018, I saw that they changed all the cannabis that they had into mushrooms. And I was like, wow, they are in Denver. I was like, wow, guys. And actually, it was a house that they were growing there, and they were around 10 people. And suddenly I went there and was the only one. It's like, hey, Dave, what happened here? Where is all the people? He's like, man, we are growing mushrooms right now, and we don't need that much people compared with the cannabis. In any case, I start asking them, like, wow, what's that? You have many types of different cultivars, and suddenly we start like just checking the COAs, the analysis that they had with the HPLC, and I was really surprised. Later on, I can share with you some. I was like, wow, there is a mushroom that it looks really equal, and one has 0.2% of psychoactive component, and another one 2.4. So it means that
Jesus.
10 times. So it's like, hey man, I just took 1 gram of this mushroom, but okay, what was the content? No, like at the end you are eating perhaps 10 grams. So since then I was like, boom, hey, let's do it with an IR. It is possible, let's try it. We take 100 samples, brrr, we did the chemometrics, and yes, it's vibrating. Not the psilocybin. Psilocin, we cannot see psilocin, but we see psilocybin, we see PCB, that is the total compound active, and then we also see the minor alkaloid. So at the end, we are able to have a reference. What means that? That if I love this technology to breed cannabis because it's amazing, you can breed many plants with the mushrooms as well. And actually, mushrooms it goes really even quicker because cycles are going quicker. So with the device, you are able to take the mushrooms, half of it dry to analyze it, and half of it you just mark and then save for later on if you want to do clones of it. And in a way that we are able to exactly, no, to know what we are consuming. Actually, psilocybin is really volatile. We've been seeing that if we don't store properly the mushrooms, they are gonna be just really dropping down in the PCB content. And it's also a nice technology to see, how is the potency of the mushrooms, and more or less you can actually calculate it in the perfect way. So this is also it's gonna be a model. We still don't sell that model because we still need to. I really like to have models that are really accurate. We are finishing, and hopefully at the end of the year will be available. But Marcus, you will have it. I will give you a research account, and you will have it to have fun and to play with it.
Yeah, no, I can't wait, dude. It's absolutely it's a lot to process and to consider and to think of. Is this something that could, I mean, I'm sure they have cheaper alternatives now, but I'm thinking like, is this something that you could test powdered drugs and see if they were contaminated with fentanyl?
That's a super good question, but as I said, one of the leak points that we have is that we cannot see less than 100 ppms. Unfortunately, fentanyl usually is really, really small ppms, and we
Mm,
cannot see it with NIR. There is a technology with spectroscopy. This is an NIR. There is a Ramen technology, new one that is really expensive that could, but it takes 20 minutes and it's not 100% sure. This is a limitation. With light, we cannot see really, really small things. So fentanyl will not be able. Usually, we have been working with narcotic models as well, and we usually use fentanyl strips. So we just check the components and later on always using the fentanyl strips to check if it's there or not. Actually, yeah, I would really love to find a way to identify it easier, but it's super difficult.
yeah, because it's such a small, I'm supposing carfentanil is even more difficult because it's 100 times stronger than fentanyl and used 100x in less amounts, which really just speaks volumes to like why those drugs are killing so many people because nobody knows how to homogenize them properly. They just create hotspots and kill people. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah,
But
I think one of the main reasons is because, especially in why we don't have this problem in Europe, because we have access to heroin. In United States, it's really difficult to access to heroin, and then the people is when they start consuming the fentanyl and all this shit. So I wish to have a regulation in all the drugs. This is the dream of my father, and I think one day we will have it. Actually, I was in Uruguay working with the government because they wanna have Valemberas in their system, and they were talking about the regulation of few other drugs, MDMA, ketamine, perhaps cocaine. I was like, wow, why not? Why not? It's not gonna be worse. Right now, we don't have any regulation, any control. It's like totally on the hands of the mafia. So why not taking taxes from it? We already have the case of the cannabis and alcohol. It's legal. That is the worst one. So come on. I think it's
yeah.
time to start talking about that and seeing how good could be. For sure, education for the people, but also access. I think the access will save a lot of lives, especially in United States. I was really surprised when I went to San Francisco. I was like, what the fuck, man? This is like zombie city. This is like
Yeah.
what the fuck? We have homeless in Barcelona, but not like these huge groups of people. Like it's like, wow, man. We used to be able to do something into that, and we used to be able to help these people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's a very cool technology. I love the idea of sending like my wife having one in her purse at the grocery store and just like hitting all the food and finding the sort of caliber of food. I mean, obviously we use our nose and our olfactory. You see people going in and some people have the trick smelling the bottom of the pineapple or how the watermelon sounds. There's all of these things that have been passed along, but those are archaic compared to, George Jetson rolling up with the Valenveras. Beep, 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 beep. Just be like,
Yes,
dude, I got the best watermelon in the whole store. Well, how can you possibly know that? Well, let me show you the data.
exactly. Actually, we did with the Bensock unit, we did a project for one of the biggest melon companies in the world. And actually, it was crazy because in Spain, they have one of the biggest facilities where they sent all the melons to there, and they had 25 people. Just they by the noise, they know if it's sweet, or super sweet. So three categories, no? It's amazing how you see the people just pam, 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 this is sweet. Pam, 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 this is super sweet. So they had an error of 25%, which is not bad. So from four, three of them, they were in the right place and one not. Okay, so the company came to us and said, hey guys, do you think the NIR would be able to see that? And we were like, I don't know, let's figure it out because it could be really nice. And the guy was like, yeah, but you cannot open the melon. He's like, no, we don't need to open the melon. By the outside, we are going to check. So actually, we did the model. We were right in the 99% of the cases with the melons. Not only that, is that every 100 melons, they have one rotten melon, more or less. And the NIR had a signal with the rotten ones. So by one side, it's really nice because right now every category of the melons is perfect. So super sweet, super sweet, or super sweet. But these 25 people, they are not working anymore in the company, which is something that this is the bad part of it. But it was amazing, no, to see that we were able to categorize all these melons and even more being able to see if it's rotten or not. Wow. Crazy.
It's a big deal for sure. I know that we shop a lot for organic food at Whole Foods, and it's expensive. And so, my wife goes out of her way to try and make sure that she's picking the best quality fruits and vegetables as possible. But when we get home and you open it up and you see that it's rotten or that it's a bummer, it's like, whoa, that was expensive. And now it's kind of like, wow, what do? We hold on to it till we go back to the grocery store and tell them that it was rotten, or so pretty nice concept to be able to wait a minute, is this closed here? Sorry, just getting texts from my son. It's Mother's Day, so I'm operating a Mother's Day sort of plan with my 21-year-old son. He's out in the world getting shit done right now. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Well, what's everyone puffing on today? What are you puffing on over there, Ruben?
I have few hashes. As you know, Spain is next to Morocco, and I have many friends doing hash there.
I
I,
bet.
yeah, one. Ooh, what's that?
That's some full melt bubble hash. That's Yeezy. This is it right here. Here, let me show it up to the camera to kind of give you an idea of just how beautiful this stuff is. It is ridiculous.
Looks amazing, eh?
Yeah, it's got like a couple of different colors in it. When you look up close, it kind of has like a little bit of like darker orange.
Wow.
So I think we're gonna do a little dab on behalf
Nice.
of you and Wade in Hash Church today. I kind of like this little tiny Hash Church today. I'm not gonna lie. It's sometimes we got 20 people on the panel, man. This is like very nice and chill. What everyone's smoking in the chat room? I want to hear from you guys. We got 241 people watching live right now, so shout out to all of you for making Hash Church what it is. Shout out to the Press Club for their sponsorship, as well as Bubble Bags and Puffco. We appreciate the support. Can you ask about the new law in Brazil? How many plants, etc.? I don't know much about Brazil. Have you been paying attention to Brazil, Ruben?
So I've been there the last ratio and actually it's changing and evolving a lot. I could not tell you specifically, but if you want, I can ask and later on share to you because I have many contacts there and actually I can ask right now and perhaps before the end of the program I will let you know.
Awesome.
Yep, yeah, I was there and it was amazing in Sao Paulo. Like people has a huge vibe. They love like us. We smoke hash with tobacco is our way. Sorry for that. I don't know if you allow me possible or not.
Of course. Of
Okay,
course.
okay.
Of course. But I do hate it.
I know.
Actually, Wade says you can't. No, I'm just
Okay.
joking. I'm joking.
I can do it pure as well, but I love it into that way. And the Brazilians is a huge, there is a huge society. There are many millions living there. And wow, regulation is coming. I'm so excited as well how it's going to be this year.
Dude, the
And they
Brazilians
especially
love cannabis.
love, they passionate about it and they love hash.
They
They are
love
very
hash.
freaky. Yes, they are super freaky with the scissors and ti 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 ti. I cannot wait to come back again.
Shout out to William from the Grow Room in Brazil. He really helped get bubble bags exposed to the Brazilian people, and I am always so well received by Brazilians. They are truly hashish people.
Sure. We should go together this year, perhaps. I'm sure people would love to see you there.
Dude, I'd
And
love to go to Brazil, man. Are you kidding me?
yeah, bubble bags, I think, are super famous there. So,
Yeah, listen, I was in Whistler a couple weeks ago on it was called the Slush Cup. And they dig out the bottom of the mountain and they fill it up with water and they put a tarp down and they fill it. It's like 3 feet of water and it's probably like 100 feet long. And what they do is they create a run in that all the people walk up to, and people are like borderline naked. They're dressed like chickens. They're dressed like whatever, just maniacs, mountain maniacs. There was like hundreds of people sitting in the audience just on the snow. A massive snowball fight erupted where there was just snowballs going in every direction while half naked people dressed like chickens were flying down the mountain on skis, backflipping into this pond and then trying to slide out. And it just reminded me of how much I love the culture. I love cannabis culture and how it fits into so many aspects of other culture. You know, you can go to the Marley Brothers show and there's some cannabis culture. You can go up to the mountain and I'm walking up the mountain. It's super steep. There's snowballs flying anywhere. And I hear Booberman. And I look and it's like, Booberman, it's us, the Brazilians. And there's like 5 or 6 of these Brazilians. And they're like, you must come up, Bubble Man. So I walk up to these guys. I end up smoking hash with them for probably like an hour and a half. Snowballs flying over our heads the whole time. I got a good one right in the side of my face. I did pay that girl back and get her really good though. Just good, honest fun on the mountain. I just can't. And to Bingo Lombardi, who just asked, is Whistler ski season over now? I was snowboarding yesterday at this time. I was on the mountain snowboarding. I was also snowboarding 3 days ago. I went up there and had an amazing time with my old buddy Craig, who used to work with me at Embark. We had an absolute spectacular. I mean, the mountain is one of my favorite places in the world to spend time. I really do love it that much. Yeah, can't get enough of the mountain. Mountain culture. The mountain will close, I believe, on May 19th. So you'll probably just miss it, Ruben. Not that we couldn't go
oh,
up there and still go for a hike, but we won't be able to,
I
we won't
love
be able.
snowboarding. We'll do it next time.
Yeah, please. I mean, it's a
Yes,
very rare,
please.
there's half of the year you can snowboard here. So it's 6 months long is the season.
Amazing, amazing. You know, I'm in Barcelona and we have mountains as well in the Pyrenees. I usually go every weekend to snowboard.
Jeez.
I like it. I like it.
Dude, let's go snowboarding the next time I'm in Barcelona.
Please, please, for sure. Yes,
Oh
yes,
my
you're super welcome.
God.
Any of the best spots we go for sure, for
Dude,
sure.
I rented a motorcycle this year and I just drove around Barcelona. Every time there was an event and people were like, hey, we got to go to this event. And I'd be like, okay, so let me think. I'm going to get there. Everyone's going to be smoking spliffs. I'll be sick to my stomach within 20 minutes, migraine headache within 35. Seriously, like I wish I wasn't so sensitive to it, but it just destroys me, Ruben. It destroys me and all my clothes. So then I'm like, oh, why don't I go the long way? So I'm going on these like 2.5 hour motorcycle rides into the mountains along the coast before I would be like, oh shit, like I gotta, I get like an hour away and be like, oh man, this is like, I gotta go back and like Bobby and the crew at La Colada, they're all waiting for me. And But it was awesome. I skipped out on probably at least one third to half of the event this year and just rode a motorcycle and fed my soul. And let me tell you, for those of you out there hustling and working hard, you will never on your deathbed regret not working hard enough. You'll regret not spending enough time feeding your soul and spending and feeding the souls of the people you love. So whenever you can find a moment to do that, even if you're like, I've got this very strict, long schedule and I'm doing, it's like, no, no, no. You can like squeeze little moments out of that where you really do feed your soul. And it was crazy that I didn't remember that my brother Remo loves to ride motorcycles. I've ridden dirt bikes and quads with him over the years. But while I was in Amsterdam this year, I couldn't remember anyone who would rent a motorcycle with me. I couldn't remember out of my friends who rides, because you don't really want to ride with people who don't ride, you know?
Exactly.
It's
I know
kind of like,
exactly.
hey, I've never taken a large dose of mushrooms before. Want to do it with me now for the first time ever? No. Why don't you do that? And let me know how that goes. And if you're comfortable there, we could do it. We could go there, but I
Yes.
don't want to be the first. I don't want to be that guy.
Totally agree.
Well,
Barcelona is a city that uses a lot of motorbikes. Yeah, I'm from Barcelona and I have motorbikes since I was 14. Once you come here again, I have the motorbike, so you can actually use it and have it. It would be nice if you want. I love sharing things and yeah, I love motorbikes. It's amazing. As you said, feeding the soul and especially here with good weather, it's amazing. I love it. I love it.
yeah, you definitely live in a really good city. There's no doubt about that. It's uh it's amazing. Barcelona is a
Thank
special
you.
one.
And actually, we have the best pilots, like MotoGP, the highest level on motorbikes in the world.
Mm.
The best ones, yeah, are
It
from
seems like the
Barcelona.
culture of cars even seem to know how to drive around motorcycles better than I see in North America.
Could be, could be, could be. I was planning to mention something when you were talking about Rob, and I think what you were saying about feeding the soul, I think I would really like to replace petrol into hemp. This is something that I would really love. Being industrial engineer and agriculture engineer, we still don't have any decorticator in Spain, but this is one of my goals. I would really like to talk a bit about that, no? And I don't know how is there, Marcus. Do you have any decorticator? I know that Canada has been processing much hemp, but here in
We've been
Spain,
we've been processing hemp now. Me and my buddies, we were the hemp guys. I don't think I have like super if I have it here, cool, I'll share. If not, no worries. I don't think I do. We got into oh shit, I do have more jars from, yeah, I just found a jar of rosin from Sauce Rosin Labs. Oh my God. Purple Poison OG. Are you kidding me?
I wish
Woo!
you can send me a bit through the screen, like,
Oh
oh,
my God, that was amazing. I thought I was out of this. I was gonna puff some with my buddy the other day, and I was like, man, I smoked that so fast. Yeah, you just gotta rip these things open. The Canadian, you can't look at how I had to open this. Wait, you'd need a bloody, like, to get this open is so insane. It's well, I guess you can kind of do this. You're
it's,
supposed to be able to push it sideways, but anyway, check out this rosin, and then I'll tell the hemp story.
yes, please.
Oh, it's leaked over a little bit, but oh my goodness.
Oh,
Oh my goodness.
a color.
Yeah, it's going to be really nice. So yeah, we got into the hemp game very early. I remember when Don Wershafter found out he was like related to, I think his name was Schlichtenstein, the guy who created the decorticator, right? If you look at the history, it's all like, yeah, we were real, followers of Jack Herrera back in the day. My partners all went to Amsterdam in '94 and they met him and got the book and came back to Manitoba. And as we started reading through the book, like hemp just started kind of showing itself to us in our own province. In fact, I remember one time we were in a warehouse and we found all these spools of 100% hemp thread. And they were from like 75 to 100 years ago, right? Because hemp had been illegal for 73 years. When we got our first hemp license in 95, I think it was 95, we got it was the first license in 73 years for hemp to be grown in the prairies, and it was an experimental 5-acre field, and you were only allowed to, what experimental means basically is you're not allowed to profit commercially from it. So there's no business that can become of it. So that happened in Canada in 98 when they commercialized hemp and you could start actually making money from it. And when they did that, obviously people have to understand, like, hemp being illegal for almost 100 years with no infrastructure being developed for it whatsoever was like a near mortal blow, right? The cotton ginny got fed and all of these different technologies got fed to produce products out of cotton and different celluloses, but there was no real technology for hemp. And for the hemp for textile hemp and cellulose and some of that sort of heavier stuff, the infrastructure is astronomical, like in many, many, many billions of dollars to really do that properly. Whereas the dehulling of the seed and the collection or sale of the seed embryo or the pressing of the seed embryo into hemp oil, that became the pathway to revenue for hemp in Canada. And all the Canadians focused on growing grain and producing dehulled seeds and hemp seed oil. And shout out to Paul Bobby and the Bobbies from Manitoba, who were the first in 98 to create the dehulling process and to start selling. He made the dehulled hemp seeds for Manitoba Harvest and many other companies. So that's kind of how that became a thing in Canada. We never, hemp in America has been just about CBD originally, and then it turned into THCA with the Farm Bill as well. So they have a whole different thing going on in the US that we never tapped into. It was so much earlier for us that hemp at that point in time, yes, it was still 0.3% THC, but we weren't thinking like that. We were just thinking, what can we do? There's 50,000 commercial products that hemp can make. And we thought, which one should we focus on? And really, much the way Dave and Rob, when they speak to what the work they did at HortiFarm, they chose the low-hanging fruit. And so we chose the low-hanging fruit as well, which was seed and oil, growing for seed and oil content, which is pretty awesome when you think about it, because people are very unhealthy. And there's literally nothing healthier than hemp seed oil, where the GLNA to GLA is a 3-to-1 ratio, which is exactly the ratio that the human body needs to process that. And more importantly, that it's all of the, like, I think it's all 9 or 8 of the essential amino acids plus the 3 for children. Like, so 11 plus amino acids, the ones that children require for bone and organ development. So it has everything in there. It's like the perfect food. And making that available, even if people are just sprinkling it on their salads, which is kind of how it started. The green oil is terrible tasting. Cold pressing is an archaic process. I think in the future, these processes will involve defatting, where they just defat the embryo and end up with a gold oil and a white protein powder. These are good. People do need a quality of oils and of protein in particular. And there's no doubt about that hemp is very, very unique in the sense that it contains all of those essential amino acids. Plus, I mean, if we talk about hemp for what it really is, it's cannabis. It doesn't have to be low THC when it actually involves the phytocannabinoids as well. And I say cannabinoids because if you look at this, and Dr. David Allen talks about this often, everyone's saying cannabinoids. And it's not cannabis, it's cannabis. And Dr. David Allen was kind of thinking that it was like part of the mainstream sort of medical scientific world to like remove it from cannabis a little bit further by changing the pronunciation of the word cannabinoid. So I do try to consciously say cannabinoid, like cannabis, the way Dr. David Allen has taught me. I do make the mistake sometimes, and if you hear me do it, by all means, please call me out. But yeah, it's incredible. It's been a long journey in Canada with hemp. Hemp blowing up in the US the way it did has also the Farm Bill really has also been very unique and interesting to, much the way the recreational model decimated the medical model, right? Because you have people like at first that are like, oh, we're all about the patients. We're just all about the patients. And then they do the medical thing, but they're really all about the Benjamins. And so they jump into recreational as fast as they can, 90% of companies. And when they do that, they leave the medical people kind of in a lurch. I see the same thing happening to the recreational people through the Farm Bill. Now the recreational people are like, we're following the rules. We've got all the licenses. We're doing everything we're supposed to. And then the Farm Bill guys are like, we're not doing anything. We're just like processing shit right on the field. We're selling vape pens at the gas stations. We're shipping gummies to 50 states. It's a whole wild scene. And I don't know what to make of it myself. I'm not sure I have an opinion on any of it other than whatever pushes it forward. Let's just keep pushing this thing forward is what I'm saying.
Totally, I totally agree. Actually, when we were talking about Rob, I met Rob because I moved from the Netherlands. I was working in Biovid, and I moved to Barcelona to study at the Agricultural University of Barcelona because there is a teacher, it's called Jill Gorge, that he did a PhD showing by science the rotation of hemp with different cereals and how this rotation was able to increase both the production of hemp and the production of cereals. And it was like, wow, I was shocked seeing like wow, how benefit could be, to integrate hemp as well with the rotation of many other cereals and how this could really even improve the other crops. And I would really like to present you one day. There is so mainly in Europe, half of the hectares that we grow hemp are in France. France is the biggest producer with a huge difference. They have 11 decorticators. Peugeot, they use many already pieces of hemp in their cars. France build up like public buildings out of hemp. They already know that they are more efficient. So they are really going, I think, in the higher level. So Vincent has a company, it's called Les Chambres de l'Atlantique. I'll send the link later on if you want to have a look because it's an amazing history. He's a pro surfer that got a few millions to develop like a hemp seed facility. He did all the facility out of hemp, and then he's doing hemp tofu. Boom, amazing. It's like
Nice.
really one of the best products. So he has been working a lot in trying to have the best seeds. He had like really combinations of different, wow, super good techniques to have one of the best seed oils that I've been tested in my life. But when I saw the hemp tofu, was like, what? That's a super product. And I would really like to see like these evolutions, of see like we're gonna start eating less meat or less animal meat and then going into these kind of new proteins that, as you said, they are super good for the human body. And I think we still don't know their real potential. So my one of my questions, would be like, because I've been breeding with hemp and I will always was looking like, imagine if we could have a plant that could do seeds, could do cannabinoids, correct me if I'm wrong, and as well fiber, especially not long fiber, which will be the textile, but the short fiber for construction or for biopolymers. So trying to find a strain that could give us all these different kind of sources in a way that we are improving the next crops that we are going to do on cereals. So it's like, wow, why we don't do it? Why it's not there? I'm really trying to see the ways that we can start creating the corticators and finding the way, to move on with that.
Yeah, it sure would be nice to get away from, not that I don't like cotton, but the amount of chemicals and pesticides that are sprayed on cotton when it's not organic is like a next level, like not something you really want to be draping yourself in every day.
I totally agree. Actually, our skin is our biggest organ, and we are totally in contact every day. So I think also it is a super important point.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Actually, I did a model with hemp as well. We did a model to check the nutrition in the seeds, and we had one for the fiber. Still is going on because, as you know, the hemp is not that big as the recreational, but I think will come. I'm really excited as well to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. People asking some questions about Harlequin and Wade in the chat room. I'm trying to find the question. Harlequin hash rosin. God bless the Farm Bill author. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's nice when they sneak those in. Not gonna lie. Helped make Harlequin, they said. Okay. Wasn't Wade a CBD crew warrior? Can Wade talk or speak on Harlequin and Charlotte's Web? So there's a few questions. If you got the energy to answer some, Wade.
Yeah, sure. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, so the first one was asking if you were a part of the CBD crew warrior. CBD crew warriors? Sorry, I gotta. Wasn't Wade a CBD crew warrior? I don't know what that means. Was that a group that you were a part of, or is that a group that existed in California, Wade?
Not that I know of, Marcus. Um, I did, in conjunction with a couple of other cultivators and Fred Gardner, start the entity known as Project CBD.
Right. Yeah. So
And
tell us about that. That was a doozy.
that came about because there were three cultivators in Northern California, at least, that had found a version of cannabis that was rich in CBD at a time when it was very rare, shall we say. And without getting into a lot of detail, because I love both of these men a great deal, what happened was I was of a mind that if CBD could do even a little of what I was starting to understand it could do, as many people as possible needed to have some of it. And then there was another person who was very much at the other end of the spectrum. And I won't get into names, and I'm not doing him justice by describing it in this way, but he felt that it was appropriate for us to let it out a little at a time, if you will, so that we would have the opportunity to derive some financial benefit from the work we were doing. And then the third person was kind of in the middle. It was interesting to watch. When he was talking to me, he was all about, yeah, let's give it all away. And when he was talking to the other fella, he was like, oh, you're right. We need to sort this out so we can make some money. And this was all an open communication kind of conversation. It wasn't always friendly conversation, but we were very open about it. And yeah, long story short, because I had already for more than a month now been providing cuttings of Harlequin to Elemental Wellness, to Harborside, and then what was the one in the city, Monica? Spark. Yeah, those three entities for the first couple of years had cuttings of Harlequin, and you could just walk in and buy as many as you wanted. And I will say this about Project CBD. We started it trying to figure out what were we going to do about these plants. And what we ended up with was we would like to educate the public on the possibilities of CBD. And this was back in 2010, 2011. And I think we accomplished our goals. And on Project CBD, I'll just say this. I stopped working with the folk that took it over back in 2011, 2012, when I came up here, mostly out of losing contact with the new folk who had taken it over. To this day, Fred Gardner is a good friend. But most of the rest of the folk that were involved in Project CBD, we've all gone our separate ways. I have had some success in finding offspring, if you will, of Harlequin, and have had the opportunity and the gift. It's really been a gift to witness what the cannabis plant can do for some persons whose health might be extremely compromised. It looks like a miracle until you understand what the endocannabinoid system is doing or how it works. And then it's just a fascinating kind of puzzle to solve, if you will, of finding the right version of the plant that would help the person you're trying to help. It's really clear, to me at least, I'm not helping this person. This person is getting the help they're getting from the plant. And yes, I might have been involved in cultivating it or breeding it or turning it into a product that was accessible to a patient. All of that has relevance in terms of the experience of the patient. But I've really, Marcus, do you mind me taking up some time here?
Oh my goodness, please wait. Are you
Okay.
kidding me?
All right. Well, being acutely aware of the needs of patients myself, I felt I had a nice gift yesterday. I saw a whole bunch of, not a whole bunch, I saw a half dozen friends, people whom I have a great deal of respect for and have not had the chance to see. And they were here in town to do a 2-day workshop on the heritage, or what was it, the Legacy Genetics Project. Anyway, it's a big deal that's happening. They're going around the state, and it's about preserving the culture and the genetics. You know, we were talking earlier about the culture of cannabis and how important it is. Well, that's what they're doing. They're attempting to preserve some version of it. Anyway, they came up to visit, and late into the night last night, I sat here thinking about this circle of people, and it was Eleanor Kuntz of LeafWorks, who is doing just amazing work like you, Ruben, not just in cannabis, but in food and in herbs and in certifying that things like this 20-foot container of chamomile is in fact chamomile. And that's kind of a big deal when you're talking a 20-foot container of some particular substance that someone wants to use to make tea. Anyway, yeah, Eleanor, she's actually made me a godfather to one of her children, which I thought was a very kind gift. And then right next to her was a young man named Jonathan Collier, who's been very active here in Nevada County and then down in Sacramento at the state level in advocating for regulations that make sense. Hello, why are we doing it this way? Anyway, Jonathan's a wonderful young man. And the gift that he provided is he brought his, I don't know, his 2 or 3-year-old son, who not long after he got here, he became fascinated with me. And I think he was fascinated with my oxygen hose. But yeah, for like 20 minutes, half hour, this little boy sat on my lap playing with my face and my oxygen tube, and I was just feeling the joy and beauty of life. You know, at that point in the development of life, it's really an exciting adventure and very beautiful to be witness to it. So that was very sweet, Jonathan. Thank you. And then I'll probably leave people out, but Uh, these are anyway. Next was Janine Coleman, who's been doing Origins Council. She's been really busy doing that. And then there was Todd Holmes, who is a fella in conjunction with University of California at Berkeley, one of the, I don't know which specific part of the UC campus he's involved with, but he's been doing interviews with me on the phone for, I don't know, a month or more now. And it was a total surprise and a gift that he showed up. And so I had the gift of getting to know him and his partner. I really feel like I'm leaving somebody out. Anyway, there was also Diana Gamson, the executive director of the local Cannabis Alliance. And I guess I'm speaking about to this, Marcus, because Ruben has inspired me this morning. I've been feeling a lot of feeling like I've been rode hard and put away wet is an old school expression, but that's how I've been feeling lately. I and I have to acknowledge the incredible support that I've received from Monica, my wife, and a lot of that support has been me actually learning how to communicate with her. I Through most of my life, I've never had to ask anybody for anything if it wasn't about getting something done for somebody else. I'd ask for help pulling together an organization, but to be in a situation where, because it's very difficult for me to do this, it's hard for me to skillfully ask for a cup of coffee in the morning. And I'm not going to get into the details of my situation at the moment, but I will just say that I think it makes a lot of sense for everybody who's listening to, learn how to be present with the people in your life in all kinds of different ways. Don't assume that the beautiful relationship that you have right now will always be that way. Be that in business or in romance or in real estate, whatever, one of the cliches that I've come to realize is deep truth. There's some little cliches that are sort of funny, and then there's others that are funny, and there's a deep truth. And I don't remember this one. Oh my. Yeah.
Well, just not to take for granted your relationships and you know,
Thank you, Marcus.
your
Yes.
health.
Yes. What you have in your life, the situation that you have in your life right now, ideally it's a situation you're enjoying and find fulfilling, and are surrounded by people who care about you, and you're just having a grand old time. And to be really clear, there's nothing wrong with that. By all means, enjoy your life when your life is providing you what you want from it. And I'm just here to testify to the idea that your life may not always give you what you want. The cliche I was trying to remember is the only constant is change. And that's really true. It's a part of Mahayana Buddhism, It's one of the paths of meditation to really just go into, yeah, the moment, if you will. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to stop there for now, Marcus. I don't want to trip myself into I find myself too often lately in speaking with people that I love, talking about my situation and specifically my physical situation. And I guess I don't feel up to sharing it with all of the folk on the show here. I will say this, that if the only thing that's constant is change, it's a really good idea to get used to that idea, to go with it instead of trying to fight it. Because, well, there's another nice image. And I think this one's really relevant in romance. If you have a relationship that you really love, treat it like a butterfly sitting in the palm of your hand. And if you keep your palm open and in the sun, and be careful about how you relate to that butterfly, because again, this is a precious and beautiful thing that we're talking about here, a romantic relationship that not only works, but fulfills you and your partner. This is not an easy thing to achieve. But if you happen to have that, you can view it as a butterfly sitting in your hand. And as soon as you try and close your hand, if the butterfly can, it will fly away. But if it can't, you'll crush the wings of this being that you love so much. And what I've come to realize for myself is that it's way too easy to crush the wings of someone you love. And they might recover from it or come back. But I really encourage anyone who cares about this sort of thing to recognize that, yes, you will change. Things in your life that you enjoy now, that will change. And, if you play your cards right, the change might be something you really love and appreciate and enjoy, because that's certainly possible. That's certainly possible. Yeah, I'm gonna stop there. Enjoy what you have and celebrate it. Be grateful. I'll go
Beautiful
back to
words.
listening, Marcus. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful words, Wade. Very powerful words. Definitely has everyone introspecting, looking inside, trying to figure it out for themselves. I'm definitely forever going to look at my relationship as a butterfly. You're right. It's so easy to crush the wings. I've been with my wife for, oh, I want to say 36 years so far that we've been together. 36 years. So we've our wings have some bruises, some breaks. It's about trying to figure out, and I'm still trying to figure it out actually, how to do the repair of something so powerful yet delicate. Because generally powerful means strong, but it doesn't always have to. Powerful can be very delicate as well. Good words of wisdom from Wade. And people were saying, awesome that it's a small panel today. That allowed Wade to actually talk a little bit. So we appreciate you sharing, Wade, honestly, really. It's good to get perspective. And although I understand, I mean, personally, listen, if I was in your situation right now, I would definitely be talking about it. with whoever would listen. That's just who I am. I can appreciate that you might not want to share that always with people, or that you're really such an empathetic person that you probably don't want to bring people down, even though people are willing to hear it if it's helpful in any way, which sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't, depending on what we're going through. But yeah, very good. Well, Ruben is coming out, I believe, to the Grow Up conference in Toronto at the end of this month in May. So anyone that wants to go see Ruben and hang out and, you know, see his little what do you call that unit? Val
It's, it's Valenvera's unit, but actually it's a
Valen Veras. It's a what?
Valenvera's. Valenvera's is a Neo Spectra. The
Yeah,
hardware is called Neo Spectra.
yeah.
But the unit with our software is Valemeras. Yeah, we'll be in Grow Up. I've been studying in Toronto. I love Canada. I think people there is so nice, it's so open. I think we have a huge relation with Barcelona and Toronto, Vancouver. I think we are in the same latitude and really looking forward to come back there and have fun visiting you before that. That is gonna be amazing. Visiting few farms. I really love visiting production facilities, learning how people is doing it after visiting many of them in all the world is like, wow, it's my passion and I love it. So I'm really looking forward to see how it's gonna be. And wait, yeah, I really love what you talk about, like being able to live the present and really celebrate it is a miracle that we are alive. And it's constantly, every time it's changing, thanks God, no thanks life, because otherwise I think, imagine being in the same boat, no, all the life. I think it's tough to change the boats and the situations, but I think at the end of the life is like, wow, good. As you said, no, trying to find the best way to see these changes. And I think I'm older or I have more experience, no? It depends how you see it. And yeah, I really love what you said.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know how many of you know of the artist Ren. He's a UK guy, incredible artist. He has a song, a video that he did about 2 years ago called Hi Ren. And it's him sitting in sort of a hospital gown in a wheelchair with his guitar. And he has this song and he's singing about this these two different parts of his mind, right? He's kind of got the negative guy on one shoulder and the super positive guy on the other shoulder. It's a really, really powerful song. It's like 9 minutes long. And at the end of it, he puts the guitar down and he stands up and he speaks for about a minute. And he says that when he was younger, he had a harder time with the dance of life because of how stiff he was. And that as he got older and he became softer and he allowed softness to enter his world, that dance, that became easier. And I think it speaks volumes to what Wade was saying in the sense of, just appreciating what you have. And yeah, I lost my train of thought. I had a good point of perspective here. I got to try and find it. It's in regards to him. Maybe it'll come back to me. Softness. Yeah, just that change. Change is what makes life difficult sometimes, but only when you stay rigid and stiff and refuse to soften up. And, that softening up can be as simple as learning how to ask your wife for a cup of coffee in the morning. That is the kind of softness. And I always do say this as well, because my wife is similar to you, Wade. She's very selfless, very, very selfless. I try to give her the perspective that when she allows people to serve her, she's actually giving them that gift. And so that's kind of another sort of perspective. I always try to, because I think that's true. I'm not just trying to trick her or whatever. I do believe that it's true that, sometimes if you've been such a selfless person, the best gift you have left to give those around you is to allow them to serve you a little bit and for you to be a little selfish. So that's what I would say. That's what I would say.
And I would sing in agreement with what you're saying, because it's important to remember that in the same way that change is constant, love is real. It's not another thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately is the statement, I love you. And it's amazing to me how often I hear it or how casually it gets tossed about sometimes. But if you really listen to those words and what they mean in a relationship with another person, you're offering them a gift and they are being in a certain way, you're asking them to come out, if you will. In a certain way, you're asking them to meet you where you are. And the way that phrase is tossed around so casually, I'm not sure people really get what they're saying. I mean, to me, I'll go all woo-woo on you, but to me, love is what makes the world go round. It's I sound like a sunshine and LSD hippie, but I really think it's true. It's love is what motivates our interactions with each other. It is what um, is expressed. Here it is Mother's Day. It is what is expressed in the interaction between a mother and her child or children. There's no other relationship like that one. They literally took cells from their own body to create your body. So there's literally no way you can repay that gift. So words like I love you don't really match to it. But I mentioned that because I wanted to point to the multidimensional nature of the word love. You know, we toss it around so casually, but there's so many ways in which love is made manifest in the world and in our lives. And I've come to realize as I look back on my life that I did an awful lot of things that I thought of as love, but perhaps were selfish on my part. But I think it's really, excuse me, I think it's very important. I'll say it like that. I think it's really important to be aware where you find love in your life. I mean, you can find love among your siblings, if your familial relationships are good, you might find love with your parents before they die. There's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, I don't remember who wrote a really beautiful dissertation on all the different types of love. But yeah, love is such a multidimensional emotion, and yet we put it together with the words I and you, and you know, in the right context, it's a very powerful statement, especially if it's the first time the other person is hearing that from you. On the other hand, with the right tone of voice, it can sound like an attack. You can twist it around that way. These are just words, but the words point to feelings, emotions that are very real. And I guess what I'm pointing to in my own life is not only is it important to love those around you in your life, it's important to love yourself. And I think I spoke about this last time I was on church with you, Marcus, that really until you love yourself, you're not going to be able to love others enough. It's a bucket with no bottom. But if you are willing and able to love yourself, then that bucket fills up pretty quickly, um, and you can give real meaning to the phrase, I love you. I love you.
Mm, beautiful. I think, yeah, the intention of which we say things, the energy that we put behind them is important. Maybe one day, Ruben will have a machine that we can measure the love, be able to little vibration, little love vibration, Ruben. I feel it. I feel the love coming off of you. Very cool. Very, very, very cool. Well, I'm excited to spend some of that love with my partner, with my wife later today and show her how much we appreciate her. And yeah, it's no small feat breeding all of the people onto the planet, birthing the entire planet. Women have I mean, they have my respect. When you were saying it earlier, you know, the how love is this great motivator. You think of all the things men have done in the world. It's always for a woman. It's always like, yeah, let me just like do this in any way that I can. What can I do? Let me figure it out. I have sure been motivated by my wife since I was like 16 years old. I've been yeah, it's a part of every decision and choice that I make in my life, which is why it's been very easy to remain monogamous and loyal to her for 36 years without any weirdness of any sort. I have women in the cannabis industry tell me that a lot of the men in the cannabis industry have like hit on them and, you know, been inappropriate. And I was just like, really? Oh, you know, you never be like that. You're like an older brother. But so I was like, yes, exactly. I'm like the older brother. That's the respect I want to have from women when I'm out in the world moving around. That's how I show my wife respect, that I create that perspective that women look at me as helpful and as like an older brother energy, but certainly not inappropriate in any way, shape, or form. That is for sure. So we're going to see you, Ruben, here soon. So what I would announce to people who are watching Hash Church right now, I think I have one or two kind of potential spots set up, but Ruben and I both have a lot of energy and we could probably go from very early to very late. So if you have a facility and it's close, not too far away, I don't really want to be doing like 4-hour drives, but if it's within an hour and a half of where we're at in Vancouver, we'll come and visit and bring the unit and do some testing and some demoing of how it works. I'm super excited to I also love the demos and the trips and going into facilities and bringing, you know, I'm definitely going to be doing that. A lot of that once Ruben comes here and gets me well trained on this unit, I'll offer it, you know, to do it on my own. But Ruben's going to be here for a few days, so it would be good if you got a nice facility, you want your flower or your hash tested. You were talking about validation, Ruben. Well, a lot of the places that we'll go to, I'll make sure that some of the flower we test or some of the hashes that we test have already been tested at the facility. We can test flour, the input material that was also, everything in Canada has to be tested before it even gets into the facility. And the minute you make it, any extract of any sort, you send that out for testing right away because you can't sell it until you get the tests back. So yeah, that's just how it works in Canada. So hopefully we'll get some other facilities. I'd love to go check out Pure Sun Farms and Rubicon Organics, and you know, who knows, maybe we'll go bump into Remo, the urban grower, and you can smoke some big joints with Remo, and we'll test some of his flowers and whatnot, and test the nutrients in the plants. He's got
That's
a food
that's a big
food
one.
company. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Usually, I really love visiting facilities and then being able to analyze in different rooms. As I was saying, every strain has different requirements, and I realized that not many facilities used to analyze the plant tissue analysis. So I was surprised and then see like, wow, this is a big potential that actually is really quick to go pick up 5 leaves, pop, analyze it and just check it out. It's like, wow, this is how I actually really like visiting facilities. And later on we jump into flowers and extracts, but I think the big potential is being able to analyze plants and then trying to perform the perfect nutrition to really perform the best out of every strain.
Well, it kind of reminds me when I first started doing bubble hash in the late 90s, and it was so early that really nobody had seen it in North America. It was like unless you went to Amsterdam and met up with Mila and saw the isolator bags. My bags came out like 3 or 4 months later. I thought it was years, but when I actually looked at the history, it was like I think she came out with hers in 98, and I came out with mine early in 99. And so, where was I going with that? I keep getting baked and forgetting my train of thought. Um, oh, showing people the process for the first time in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the excitement that exuded from them and the confusion when the weed and the water and the ice got all put in. I can kind of feel like rolling around with that unit and telling them, well, we can tell you what kind of, nutrients, micronutrients, macronutrients, what your cannabinoid profile is. It's a really cool concept, and I think Ramo will be all over it. So I'll have to give him a call while you're out here, and maybe we can go bump into him as well. I think maybe do a little filming for Bubble Man's World and for Remo's channel over on YouTube as well.
Yes.
He's always good. Oh, here we go. I see Mojave Richmond is making his way into the room. Do you know Mojave? He works close with Rob.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you guys have. He did the Sage. Do you remember the Sage back in the day in Amsterdam? The sort of a sativa narrow leaf drug cultivar. That's Mojave's unit. If you don't know him, you should know him. And I'll introduce you as soon as his camera turns on, or as soon as I hear his voice and he acknowledges that he's here. Either or. There he is.
I'm here.
Yeah, you are, dude. Welcome.
Hey,
I was just
hey,
introducing you to
guys.
Ruben.
I just listened in, man. Awesome. Ruben, I've heard much about you from Rob. I'm totally stoked to see you here, man. That's
Oh,
great.
so good. Such a
Fantastic.
pleasure.
That's fantastic, man. Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. And Wade, thank you. Your words have been so inspiring this morning, man. I've been doing my gardening thing and just listening to you guys, and absolutely beautiful. So I wanted to chime in and wish you all a happy Mother's Day and just say hi for a bit.
Oh, glad you did, man. Glad you did. So Rob remembers Ruben, hey?
Oh yeah, man. I remember when he went down the whole adventure. We have pretty much daily check-ins, so it's just awesome. And I got the whole photos from the fields and all that stuff and everything, man. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I
It's a
love
small
walking.
world.
Well, you know what exactly? I love walking through a crowd of 25 to 30,000 people and just honing in on this guy. I don't even know how we met, to be honest. I just remember all of a sudden we were just standing together and look at his smile, dude. He's just like radiating this like awesome vibe. He's got a huge, like a pound or a kilo of giant Stropharia cubensis mushrooms, an open one. He's just giving mushrooms away. He's talking, he's super stoked. I think we bumped into each other like outside, and then we ended up like having to walk through the gauntlet of getting to his booth where he demoed the little unit for us, which was pretty damn cool, man. I was with my team from Maryland at the time, actually, the Maryland crew. So yeah, his little unit is unbelievable, Mojave. It's quite a little I mean, testing for the micro and macronutrients in the plant, dude.
Dude, it's so important. It's like, and sensors are hard, and everyone's got these media substrate sensors and stuff, and trying to constantly navigate all your inputs and everything, and you got 20 different cultivars growing in one, room. It's really impossible. And like ultimately, like it's all about in the long run, farming is very narrow margins and extreme efficiency, right? So like we're all going to get to the point where like we have to really, really be optimizing every process. And this type of leaf tissue analysis and stuff, just to, I talked to a couple different, nutrient manufacturers, and I follow some professors who've been doing research for years. And one thing we all know is we put way too much phosphorus into the environment, right? It's a big problem. And cannabis has become this huge, like, I think it was Bruce Bugby who had this great quote, which was like, we fix our problems with runoff, right? So the whole strategy with nutrients now is like, whenever like you're having issues with toxicity or lack of nutrients, then it's just like more nutrients, more runoff will push everything out. And you got nutrient companies recommending up to 30% runoff, right? It's like 30% of what for your costs for one, but also just that all goes into the water table eventually. And the phosphorus is so high and usually unneeded, the plant can only uptake so much, right? So, and then I was talking to this nutrient guy, and he said that the whole world is running out of phosphorus. Like, not only are we poisoning the world, but all farming is going to have to become extremely efficient in order to utilize the finite supply of phosphorus compared to nitrogen, which we pull out of the air, right? So this whole concept of just like overusing these valuable resources, toxifying the plant, toxifying the planet, and ultimately not growing the best possible product. It's
how
really
we
good.
roll, Mojave. It's how we roll. Come on, dude. Get on the fucking. Get on the fucking.
Fuck, man.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You know what? Even as you were saying that, I was like, you know what? Some fucking 15-year-old kid from Holland or something is going to invent a way to like recapture the phosphorus from the water table using some fucking $3.99 technology. Like, that's the kind of shit I hope for with the youth. And it was that young Dutch kid, I think he was 17, that created the plastic catcher in the oceans. I mean, he figured it out. The kid's so smart. He realized within 6 months, we're not even going to touch this if we put these in the oceans. We have to hone in on the rivers that are the top polluters and put them at the mouths of these rivers. And then he did that like several years later and cut out like 40% of the plastic that was going into the ocean. So obviously there's still country sizes of it floating out there, but that to me gives me hope to think that there are minds out there that are thinking, young minds that are thinking, hey, like we're in a situation now where maybe we shouldn't just party for the next 20 years and then get our shit together. Let's get our shit together now so that we can party in 20 years. So,
right. Yeah. No, and it's always going back to like what worked before, because like just the whole concept of the phosphorus running out is because we depleted it. And I mean, there was back in the day, there was, I think, like guano wars where bat guano was so valuable that it was like a commodity worth dying over, but it always comes back to like the earth just does it its own way if we pay attention and we slow down enough. But this whole fast push of like production, the green revolution, so the phosphorus that they're talking about, elemental phosphorus that's pulled out of rock phosphate and stuff like that. So as opposed to organic fertilizer, which is a completely different story. This is about over fertilizing. So tools like Rubens, which are going to show a lot of people that not only you over fertilizing often, but what fertilizer should you be using, and really where should you be saving a bunch of money and creating a better product. That's ultimately it. I'm just always fascinated. Like when I go into most people's grows, the plants look unhealthy. Like they don't look healthy like the way I'm used to, like a green, healthy, organic, beautiful outdoor grow, or even just an indoor. And it's like comparing like a bodybuilder, where they don't look like a bodybuilder, like just doesn't look healthy. Their veins are popping out of their neck and they're fucking like their knees are all fucked up and like they just don't look like a healthy person. But yeah, like you got this mass, and like so much modern weed is like, that's what we're trying to achieve, is this bodybuilder structure of high yield, high return. But the quality of the flower, and honestly, like the quality of the high on most of this modern weed is just so bad kind of back to that conversation about like what's the active ingredient in what you're buying, right? Like we don't really know what it is in cannabis. There's too many compounds. So it's like, but it does seem to come from really well healthy, really good, well-grown flower seems to get you the highest. And this bulky giant, like in the whole Paclabutrazol days when everything was like this rock hard nugweed, that it was horrible to smoke, but the yields were so high. So just switching that whole mentality back to like Eleanor's thing about also about chamomile is that the active ingredient in most chamomile isn't even there. It's like it's just chamomile. So you buy the tea and you drink it and you're like, oh man, I love chamomile. We all love chamomile. But there's actually like this one thing in there that can be in real high concentrations if it's grown the right way and stored the right way and distributed the right way,
Just
So
like always, it's always about, can you get the plant to express itself? The idea of having what he has in that unit in your phone one day and going to the grocery store and hitting like oranges and grapes and watermelons and being like, because also having a tool like that would probably eventually, I mean, listen, before I got my macro lens, I had seen a trichome only because Joep Dumas from Amsterdam there took the pictures at the University of Amsterdam with the electron scan microscope in the late 80s, early 90s. So you could buy those postcards of the really close-up trichomes in the mid 90s in Amsterdam. And that's kind of how I started looking at that. But before I got my macro lens, before I started photographing these things, I didn't know what the language was to even look them up. And so as I started seeing them, I could, and I learned like glandular trichome. That was the first one I learned. And I remember Googling that and coming up with university documents on mint and other plants that secrete essential oils out of these glandular trichomes. And then I would get the microscope out, my lens, and I'd start shooting and I'd see these, like these things that looked like hairs. And that's how I learned about cystolith hairs, not to be confused with the stigma hairs. And so this sort of learning as we, I'm sure that a unit like yours, it could really revolutionize not only the way people shop, which immediately would change the way people grow, right? That's the key thing. So many people are trying to change things in agriculture, right? But it's like, no, 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 just give people listen, people, they've blown out their senses, unfortunately. And that's why fake terps or botanical terps, I should call them, are so popular because people are smoking cigarettes and they're drinking alcohol. They've blown out their olfactory to be able to taste something like a pineapple botanical terpene. They're like, oh, that smells like pineapple. That one smells like banana. They're all of a sudden excited. They can experience the life of a sommelier from someone that's barely ever smelt or experienced the true nature of something. And that's why they go to Safeway and buy tomatoes that taste like styrofoam. But if you could see on your thing and you started putting it together with the money that you were spending, that amount of a certain compound was low, and that's what gives the tomato the fresh taste or the juiciness or the whatever. It's an interesting way to change the way people shop, which would overnight change the way people grow.
Well, sure, I totally agree. If actually we would know the quality of the food that we consume, there has been many studies related comparing, for example, the quantity of iron in spinach when they have a regular crop or a bio crop. If you would be able to see that an average of 100 times more iron in a bio crop than a regular crop, in your life, you could think about going to buy an spinach of whatever, that even the cost the double, is have 100 times more iron. So what a fuck, like this is, I think, what you were saying, now being able to push growers to say, okay, these people already have the power to check the iron content. So, hey guys, we need to do it properly. So then it's how we are gonna force to change the production of our food into the bio production in a sustainable way, just avoiding how all this synthetic and the revolution in the all these pharma pesticides and how we produce is gonna totally change once we are gonna be able not to see that. And I think it's also a responsibility of us as a consumers, as the humans, also to be able to check it out and start thinking about that. Eh? Like you said before, Marcus, like you go and you buy bio. I also do it, and I think I try to push, local farmers, trying to see as much organic could be, and trying to really be responsible. Because if we would be starting really consuming that, any farmer would do pesticides or any seed of crops, no? And then we will be able to try to improve at the end of the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, they're very lucky that the pesticides are below 100 ppms and that your machine can't perceive them because, man, that would be the real eye opener. Although, the way people are now, like the way social media has trained people, I really think that if there was like an app that you went into your grocery store and it showed you, oh, these are all this is what you're looking for in each of those whatever veggie or fruit that you're buying, and then you go in with that and you see the numbers way lower. I mean, that would really change. I mean, it's almost sad to say, but it would almost make it the same way people buy cannabis right now, right? Which is a thing we all complain about, funny enough. Now we're getting excited about potentially people doing it with every other aspect. But it's true. People want to know what the THC percentage, they want the highest one, and they kind of want the lowest price for it. Generally, not us, but a lot of other people certainly do. I'm
And
having
it's
to rip
probably
at this
hard.
rosin.
It's probably hard to know. I mean, obviously, and you can't, it's speculative. What is the active ingredient that we want from any single crop, right?
Exactly.
Like, because it might be sugar, or it might be acid, it might be lycopene, it might be pigment, it might be all these different things. But I would assume it'd be interesting to see, like, because you go to an old farmer, like I recently, an old farmer, like an old guy in his 70s, late 70s, gave me some of his like fresh peaches from the family farm, right? And when that farmer hands you that little basket of peaches, you're going to bite into that peach and go like, oh, yeah, that's what a peach is supposed to be, right? And I'll bet you that that peach is not the same peach in the big commercial farm peach, because you don't get that at the supermarket, at Safeway. Like, you can go buy 100 peaches in a year and you don't get it. So like, the divergence from what people selected these crops to be, the high iron content in spinach, the high sugar content in a peach, the high acid content in certain types of fruits and stuff, like those were, we chose those, and then industry move the needle to a different direction, which was generally just like weight, right? Just mass. Just like, how much is a pound of tomatoes? I mean, you can get strawberries now that are like, they grow strawberries year round in California pretty much. And some of them are like the size of like a plum. And, but you bite into it and it's like, it's just not really a strawberry. It's like it's like a pale comparison of what a strawberry can be. And then you get one of these funky old school strawberries from this organic farmer who grows the heirloom variety that his grandpa grew. And they're small and they kind of rot in the basket before you get them home. And you bite into it and it's just like, it's insane. Like this, just like, so what I'm wondering is, in a long-winded way, is like, through all the analytics, are we just going to get back to where we were when we selected what we wanted these crops to have before industry decided how to commercialize them so much? Because I think that like here's a tie-in with David. David took us to this pie place in Watsonville called Gizditch Farms, right? Such an amazing experience. It was me, Rob, and David, and Todd, and Todd's girlfriend, Maya. And we drove down from Oakland and just puffed tough all the way. I'm right in the middle with David and Rob on both sides in the back seat, right? And we're just, David's got the Puffco, and he's telling us all these stories along the way that should have been recorded. They should have been recorded. He gave us the whole origins of like the whole Hayes story, the whole thing, the houses we stopped, everything, right? I'm like, David, for anyway, it was just an amazing time. But he tells us about this pie place. He's like, Gizditch Farms. And they have the most amazing pie, and I was their best customer. My family ate more pies. The old lady who worked there in the late 70s and early 80s, Nita, she told me that I was the best customer, their biggest customer, all their pies. So we get there and we buy like, I want to say like 6, maybe 8 pies. Like we got a lot of pies for like 5 people, right? And David's telling us the story, and he's like, "Yeah, the lady Nita, she would be here, and she was her family farm, blah blah blah." Anyway, we get there and we eat and we have pies, and I walk over. There's an antique store right next door on the farm, and there's a little old lady in there, well into her 90s. And I'm like, "Are you Nita?" And she's like, "Yes, I am. This is my farm." And I'm like, "Oh my God, hold on a second. I'll be right back. I gotta go get David." I'm like, "David, Nita, she's right there right now." And we walk over and he's just like blown away. It's like that it's been, 40 years and she's like 94, 95 and spry and up there every day selling things at the antique shop. She tells us that the pies that they make there are from like her grandmother's recipe.
Crazy.
That's her farm, and tells the whole story of how her father bought the farm for $4,000 in 1915 or whatever. And we're eating the pie. And by the way, before you hear all this, you're like, damn, this is like the best pie I've ever had in my life. Right. And then, and then she tells the whole story and how they make the pie and the breakdown of how they cut the apricots and all that stuff and let them and dry them. And I'm like, pie has not gotten better. Pie, flour, fruit, butter, baking, grandma recipe has not improved in probably like 100 to 200 years. Like this is an old school thing. We fucked up pie by turning it into this other thing, which is like, how many pies can you sell? Right. And luckily Gizditch Farms didn't get bought up by oh, Nita, we want to put your face on the pie and sell your pies around the country and put them in the freezers at Safeway. But anyway, the fruit that they grew, the pie that they made, and just the history and all that, I'm like, we already figured a lot of this stuff out. And then we screwed it up because, there's billions of people and everyone wants a piece of pie, Oh, so anyway, I thought I'd share
Yeah,
that.
it's pretty accurate. I love hearing Dave Watson stories and you and Rob and Dave in the backseat. I'll tell you one thing. Had I been there, that shit would have been recorded and filmed. I would have just been like, fuck it, I'm just filming the whole thing. We'd be
I got
showing the
one
video
picture.
of
I got
Dave meeting.
I have pictures of him meeting Nita.
Awesome.
And we did take one picture, but you know the deal. At the time, it
Oh
was like
yeah.
you had to ask, and then you had to give a quick rundown of why it was important to take that picture. But yeah, it was a special time, and it was one of those times when um, you knew it was special. You know, just a moment.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
That must have been not too long after that that Dave went and like how long ago was that? Some years ago?
No, that would have been 3 or 4, maybe 4 years
Okay,
ago.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's say 4, maybe 3. My
Awesome.
memory's bad.
Yiddish
Yeah.
Farms. Well, I'm gonna go there when I come to California for the first time.
You got to get the Olala berry pie because
That's
that's
what I'll
insane.
get.
And then David's favorite, I think, was there was an apple pie. It wasn't the Dutch apple. It was an apple pie where the baked top would rise, and it was about 8 inches, and you crack the top, and they got ice cream, and you sit there and in the farm and go buy an antique from Nita, and
See,
it's
their fruit would be the standard for Reuben's machine. You'd be like, let's this, and I bet you those numbers that came out of that fruit would be so much higher than the numbers that came out of the fruit at the from the Driscolls. It is weird how we do somehow manage to suck the soul out of things. It's a weird one.
what's weird in Watsonville. They have, obviously that's where Driscoll's started. Rob almost took a job getting out of it. It's maybe something for another question for next week, but Rob almost worked to work for the Berry World out of college before he moved to Indiana. He almost took a job with Ma and Pa Driscoll when they were just a little small family farm. Um, but I was going to say in Watsonville, it's interesting because they have these old apple orchards, and Martinelli's is there. And you see these old trees, which look like a classic old apple tree that you'd see in Washington or upstate New York. And then they have these new way they do it, which is like almost like a berry. It's a cane, like a single cane. They cut the plant all the tree. I call it a plant because it doesn't look like a tree. They cut it all the way back and let like a single cane come out. And then that cane just has a few apples on it. And the apple trees are spaced about 8-10 inches apart because it's about the efficiency of harvesting and the efficiency of getting it to market and all that stuff. So they're not a tree. They're like these little stumps with a stick growing out of it in these really tight rows. When you drive by, you don't think they're apples. And then when it's apple season and then you see the big apples on the big giant fat apple, it reminds me of modern weed, once again, where you see these plants that have been completely defoliated and they're left with these sticks and these chunky monster buds compared to the old Christmas tree of a plant that had, a lot going on, a lot of different chemistry, a lot of different, whatever. But not that it's bad, and I don't know that this might be the best way ever to grow apples, but agriculture and innovations kind of just, it's like the guys who make the harvester decide what crop to grow.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, them and it's always the accountant who has a lot to say about it, which is really where the problem kind of occurs. Where the accountant has the loudest voice and the farmer has the quietest voice when those two sort of collide. And it's like, we're going to put your face on all the pies. It's like, yeah, that's the accountant that's going to destroy it. They're going to be like, well, first of all, we got to get rid of all these natural ingredients that you have. This is way too expensive. It's like, oh my God.
When I was a kid, have you guys ever heard of Famous Amos cookies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, Famous Amos was just a little shop, not much bigger than this little canopy here. And you go in there, and Amos was behind the counter, and he baked the cookies, and he would put them in a little brown paper bag and give you a cookie, and you'd eat it, and it was just insane. And Nabisco bought out the brand, and it went from just being like one little shop to being like a national brand. And Amos was just like, I think he was savvy enough to say, like, y'all can run with this because it's not going to be the same cookie. And he went and bought like a farm in Hawaii or something like that and had nothing to do with it. He wasn't on like TV, like commercials and stuff like that. But they basically took his name and his reputation and a very crude version of the recipe and turned it into a Nabisco cookie on every shelf thing. But it was in our world, we have pockets of that where people have the heritage, the brand, genetics, like the amazing whole story, where what they have is more valuable to Nabisco than the cookie, right? And that's when we're in a weird era where people like in the Triangle specifically are in this weird desperation mode and trying to figure out like, well, what is the long-term play for cannabis for my family farm, for my genetics? Because it's going commercial. So it's like kind of like, how do we figure this out? And I know, Wade, you were talking earlier about the Origins Council and stuff. And me and Rob have also been working a little bit with Dominic Corva and Caleb with Cal Poly Humboldt, which also works with this whole project. And it's an interesting topic because it really is about addressing the big transition. It's about the stories, the people, and the genetics, and how to capture that in a narrative and everything. But really that narrative and those genetics and that story will end up being on someone else's product in the future, because all those people, they're all gone, for the most part, or will be gone as time moves on, And it was interesting to see the very first cultivar and story that they used for this project was Big Sur Holy Weed. And that's a family thing for me. That's my that started with very close family friends on land that my family lived on. And um and my brother was, a cultivator in Big Sur for decades and decades, all the way, to modern times. And my family, anyway, but the story was wrong. It was a wrong story. And I don't mean to put them on blast for that because they've corrected it, but it was a sensitive thing where they told the story and they put it on the internet. And then like right when they said like, oh, and people were smuggling from Mexico, and then they show a picture of my dad. Right. And I was like, whoa, that's my dad
Jesus.
on your story, because you guys just pulled it off the internet, because this is a time when there's, not a lot of the original people are around to say what really happened. Right. And we're seeing that now in a big way. And so as the opportunity to not tell the story, someone always steps in the vacuum and says, oh, well, I'll tell the story then. I've got a version that's, ready for a brand or something.
Oh, yeah.
And you see that a lot. You see that right now with landrace. That word is being used heavily. Like, and it's appropriation to me. And for me, it was appropriation of my deceased father and his heritage and our family's narrative with Big Sur. But it's happening kind of globally, where everyone's like, hey, we can grow the stuff, but the real back of the bottle sexy story about the chateau and the people and the family, we can't own that because we're all new. And all the people who were there before, the real story, they're either gone or their story isn't appropriate for the brand. So, so it's an interesting time for California because they do want to build a cannabis industry similar to wine, where they have appellations and they have, different cultivars that they can say were founded and created in certain, or at least thrive in certain areas. But it's sensitive because cannabis is on the ropes, and especially for the people who were way back, most of them have just decided not to be involved, or having a hard time being involved. So it's interesting to see we need to shape the stories for the future and respect the people whose stories, the people from the past. And Wade, you know that as well as anybody, you lived that life. So.
Super. I was planning to comment related to that, what you were talking about, how a brand could be going bigger, and especially what you say, no, how the cannabis industry could be as similar as the wine industry. Just seeing like a supermarket here in Barcelona that you can find a really cheap wine, could be good or not that good, that could come from Chile, even from Argentina. We have our own ones here, but you can always find all this really nice bottle that is craft, that is well done. And this is why I'm so excited, no, to see how this industry is going to evolve, in a sense that even me, I wish to have, no, our own production and being able to have our own strains and our own products that could be sold in all the world. And then I could be, I don't know, going to Japan, and why not, no? Being on holidays, snowboarding there, selecting, okay, I'm gonna take some of the one in Puerto Rico, in California, and Barcelona, and just trying to, as wine, no? How far are we from there? What is your idea? I wish to be there in 10 years. What do you think about it?
Well, I think it's complicated. Cannabis is so much more complicated than any other crop just because of the diversity. Like with wine, there's only, like in California, we have like 100 different varieties that are grown on scale, but only like 2 or 3 make up for over 50% of all the volume produced in the state. So it's challenging, and it's similar with hops and everything. Like there's just a small amount of plants that are used to create the vast amount of products. So it's easier to create an informed consumer because they only have to learn from 5 different things, right? But this is the cool part, I think, with cannabis, is that we'll always have really, really killer weed, because prohibition, unlike wine, created tens of thousands of experts in their basements and in their backyards who know their shit. There's not like tens of thousands of expert winemakers in their backyard making the most amazing, like we in our home can make the best weed in the world where I couldn't do that. Like I'd have to have a cellar and a press and like, so in order to like keep the knowledge base of like weed, what this is what really good weed is, I think we're going to be able, they're not going to be able to squash that the way agriculture squashes and narrows things like other crops. Like we're just always going to be fucking snobs and we're always going to know what fire is. So it's like, that's exciting. So that to me, that means like wherever you go in the world, you're always going to find the people who know how to produce. And you can't say like, this is a 7-Eleven where it's like, dude, this is just like common. You can get this anywhere. Whereas like, there's always going to be the shop that's like, if you want, I hope, I mean, that's my, I hope, you know, but the crazy thing is right now it only happens in people's backyards and in their garages because most of the people I know that grow, they grow better weed at home than they do like at work or, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like a weird parallel where like, we still know what good weed is and we still all have good access to it, but the masses generally don't. Right. So I don't know if that'll play out where with wine, the masses have access to all the best wine anywhere. Like if you got enough money, you can go buy the best bottle in just about any city in the world. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I wanna say what Wade said. That is love. Perhaps people that is growing at home, this small 2, 3 square meters, it has a lot of love, no, per centimeter. While they are working in a huge facility that you can actually love them, but not that much. So perhaps this is a value, as Marcus was saying, we would love to have to read the love of the cannabis. That could be a nice parameter.
That's awesome.
the
I
love
love
meter.
it. I love the conversation. I really do. Sorry, that was my little guy that just came in. If he doesn't play outside for at least 12 to 14 hours a day, he has like an anxiety attack. So he just came in with his like skateboard helmet in and his Barcelona hoodie. You would have liked that, Ruben. And he says to me, Dad, where are we going for the picnic? Because we like to take his mom, my wife, on a picnic for Mother's Day. We get the best organic, just delicious vegetarian food, and we'll go somewhere in the forest. But he wanted to know where we were going, and I said, I think we're just going to stay here in Lions Bay. And he was like, yes. Because of course that'll get him back faster to playing with his friends out on the street. There's something to be said with playing with your friends out on the street. And who would have ever thought that one day when you were just playing with your friends out on the street, that it would be the last time you ever did that? That you would just go in the house that day and never do that again. That to me was maybe the most shocking thing about getting older. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me there was going to be a last time. I wasn't prepared for that in any way, shape, or form. I'm still kind of not, but whatever. Yes, very good. You guys got any nice plans for Mother's Day today?
Yeah, I'm gonna go see my mom and go help fix her toilet.
Nice. That's
Like a
that's
good,
pretty nice.
like a good son.
Dude, I'm telling you, that's an awesome thing. No mom wants to be fixing the toilet. It's like just
Oh,
make that work.
no. My mom is so awesome. She is like, I mean, I could talk about my mom all the time. And it's funny because, Dominic and Caleb have interviewed me and Rob like hours and hours, and we've told our story pretty well for this project. And I keep telling Dominic and I keep telling him like actually like my mom's story is better than anybody's story. And she's just a gray-haired little old lady and she won't tell it. She's like, I won't tell my story because I don't think anybody's interested. But my mom, man, and I can't really give the full story, but she, she was one of those early beatniks who, man, she got pregnant when she was 18 in Florida from a somewhat wealthy family, and went off to Georgia for a bit, but came back to Florida, and her husband was going to University of Florida in Gainesville, and got kicked out for smoking weed in 1960. Um, And so her whole life and how she ended up having 6 kids and living in Big Sur is this whole story of cannabis and prohibition and following that trail. And they went from Gainesville to New Orleans and lived there for a while. And before they were leaving for I know this is a bit personal, but it's Mother's Day, so I'm going to start. Sorry, Mom, I'm telling your stories. Before they left, her and her husband and her 2 kids and a couple friends from high school days, like had gone full beatnik, like high school kids from Florida, from Daytona, right? From the mid 50s. And they're going and they're following the road on the road path, and they're in New Orleans, and they meet this charismatic guy, and they tell him, they say, hey, we're going to California, to the Bay Area, because that's where it's happening there. And he's like, can I come? And they're like, I don't know. And he pulls out a big giant temple ball of hash, and he goes, I've got this. And my mom's like, come on. He's like, so it was a hash. Anyway, that guy ended up becoming my sister's father, so it was following the hash trail, and then it just went into Haight-Ashbury, and then, the whole thing with that whole community and the Grateful Dead, and then into, Big Sur, and still cannabis following cannabis. I mean, cannabis was the connective tissue between this whole group of people, and my mom was, in a way, the thread, and all the way into the 70s and 80s when we moved into LA, and, we were this hippie family growing up in Hollywood and LA, and cut our hair and put on regular clothes, but we were still the thread to Big Sur and cannabis. That was the whole thing. It was just the whole thing. And anyway, and it was my mom. It was her. She was the one. She was the sweet little lady. And, she's like just the OG of OGs. And she never wants to tell her story this way. And I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. There's podcasts. People would just love to hear the whole thing. Like the first time she got high. When she told me the first time she got high, the first thing that my head goes off is like, you and 2 or 3 other friends at like 18 or 19 smoking a pinner and then describing all the effects. I'm like, that sounded like really good weed. I want to know where you got the weed. I want to know who. And it's like, oh, it came from a jazz club or the guy who got it. I'm like, this was killer Mexican old school weed that was really good in the 50s.
That's
right?
why it was at the jazz club. There's really nowhere else for that weed to be in the 50s, dude. Like, that is the spot.
Exactly. And it's the kind of weed that you could play jazz to, for one. It wasn't, I mean, it was super stimulating and energizing and thought-provoking and let you kind of live on the edge of your seat. So
Some bomb-ass
anyway,
Oaxaca.
yeah, I mean, I just love to know more. And the guy that she got it from, and like all that story, those stories are so rich. It's like Prohibition wiped out so much history, and the few threads of that we have to the era from beginning to end. And like, to me, like Mexican cannabis, like that whole jazz story that happened pre-prohibition, and then it moved all the way into the beatniks and the hippies through the underground, but it was ingrained into blues and jazz in before the 20s and 30s. So that became, it's such an important part of it, and it doesn't get told enough, like what
No.
the Black American story is about cannabis. Like, dude, it's the reason it's here. It's like, you guys were the custodians, the real custodians were like, we're going to take, oh, there he is.
Yeah, that's pretty sick,
They're going to
dude.
take all that risk. Yeah, it's awesome, man.
I listen, if your mom ever does do a podcast, you got to tell her, just be like, Mom, I'll interview you on Hash Church. Be
Yeah.
super mellow. We can put a little stuffed animal like we did for Skunkman Sam.
Yeah. Temple balls. Talk about temple balls, Mom. I love it. Just like, and then show her some modern temple balls. And
No, that'd be too good,
yeah,
man. Welcome,
it's funny.
Caleb.
Anyway.
Looks like he's setting up. Oh yeah, he's just getting his
Hello.
ear. How you doing, man?
Doing well. How are y'all? Good to see you, Wade. Marcus, Mojave. Hello,
Meet
Ruben.
Ruben.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, we've just been doing our thing. Nice mellow Mother's Day hash church here today. And yeah, Mojave was talking about you and Dominic and some of the work you guys are doing. And I thought, well, shit, like better send the link over. I love when people get mentioned and then you can just send the link. And if they have the time or they have the inclination, they can just pop in and say, oh, yeah, that was me. I was doing that.
Yeah. No, it's been a very fun. I'm about to graduate on the 17th from this 2-year
Nice.
program. It's been great working with Dominic as his research assistant on his portion of the Legacy Genetics grant. And yeah, it's really been, it's like a life-changing experience. And I really can't wait for, more information from the project to be going out. The Origins Council is like hosting these physical events all around California over the summer. So people who are interested in the project can like go to physically these events and talk with all the investigators and get questions answered, and then potentially end up as one of the people that will be interviewed by the UC Berkeley Oral History Center and, go into California history forever, ever.
It's good. It's good that someone's doing that work. It is important, the historian aspect of cannabis, not just the world history, but all of these. California, obviously, um, is an important one, especially because not only is it, I've always said it, it's kind of like, at least for me, it was kind of like the center of the cannabis universe where everything just seemed to come from. But at the same time, it's also a place where people are very willing to rewrite the history of what actually happened. Often people who weren't a part of that history do that. I think the internet made it easier as well. So it's good to like get accurate representations, from the horse's mouth of what happened, when it happened, how it happened. I mean, nowadays I'll just see random podcasts and I'll click on it, and then it'll be like some dude just being like, I'm responsible for runts and I'm responsible for this, that, and the other thing. And I'll just be like, I don't know, I don't know. That just didn't ring true. Like, I want to hear it from a more historical context over, I did that. That was me. It's important, I think.
Yeah, I think I've
It,
seen that specific podcast you're talking about.
well, I messed up. It's funny because in the 90s, even the Sage story, it got tied in with Big Sur Holyweed, and then my versions of the Big Sur Holyweed story that I was telling were also not accurate. And it really did morph into something, I think, through me and through TH Seeds, turned into the Monk Perry story. And it was a better story because the internet crafted it into a better story because they took pieces from here and here and here and then like made it this new narrative. And then everyone was like, okay, I'm searching for a narrative. Which one do I grab onto? And that is where we are in the world with everything. I mean, it could be flat earth, it could be aliens, it could be whatever. It's the narrative that fits with what you are seeking it to be, right? Like, because you're the seeker and you're on a path. So if someone wants it to be this guy, then it's that guy and they'll fight to death. And there's no better example than like Sour Diesel and OG Kush. Like there are whole worlds out there of people who just still fight over like the stories like, no, man, it was this guy and it was that thing and it was this cross and it was that one. And it's just like, why can't we just all settle and just like draw a line in the sand and say like, well, this is the best we got for an idea and this is just where we're going to stick. Well, because we all want to figure it out. It's like we're all individual experts and there's no one authority who can say that. That was the problem with Phylos. Phylos, they created these stars that you could buy essentially, but anyone could buy a star and anyone could name the star the same thing. So there wasn't this like the dream was that like Haze would just be Haze and Sour Diesel would just be Sour Diesel. and they'd be stars in a constellation where you could point with a telescope and say, that's the sour diesel star. But instead, they're like, all anyone can send in a sample called haze, and they're all equally valid because no one person is the authority. And
Yeah.
that's where I thought, well, like, well, and I remember at that time, I was like, well, actually, Rob and David are the authority. So let them say that for at least these few things, that everything else gets thrown out of that star.
Yeah.
You can't have 5 different hazes if David says this is the sample of haze that you should use for your star.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's where, so anyway, cultivars, it's like yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah,
Well,
they tried to define them.
Yeah, they tried to define them in a universe, but that universe turned into a multiverse where in this universe, haze tastes like skunk, and in this universe, haze is not haze at all, actually. It's something completely different.
Yeah. And
So
I've spoke with people who intentionally sent in, misnamed stuff
Right.
specifically because they wanted to fuck with the whole process. And, that just like Javi is saying, if you have those 5 people turning in haze and they were all being, like honest about it, you'd still have some deviation. But when you actually have people actively throwing wrenches in there and the scientists aren't able to differentiate by just picking the one that came from the actual source,
that's a
then
strange
there's
type of
issues.
anarchy. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
scientific anarchy. I will fuck your shit up. It's like, okay, well, that's a weird way for you to spend your energy, but whatever it takes.
Yeah,
I feel like
it's
that
almost
person
like
needs better devs.
anti-intellectualism,
Yeah.
Right.
almost.
Well, I don't know
Sorry,
if I,
Mojave. Sorry, hold that thought. Wave had his hand up before, and I forgot to catch it as on time. Let's let Wade speak his piece, and then back to you, Mojave.
Yeah, I'll be brief. One of the things I've realized about this legacy genetics project and the attempts to preserve the culture and stories of cannabis during Prohibition is during Prohibition, most folks were very secretive about what they were doing. If you were loudmouthed about what you were doing, the sheriff might start knocking on your door. So I think a lot of the folk who are quite important in this work, if they're still with us, uh, never learned how to talk about their work in a way that informs the public. So it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, you got a whole crowd of people who, most of their professional working lives, they were very secretive about what they were doing. It was not about celebrity at all, because again, the sheriff might come knocking. Um, I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thanks, Wade. Go ahead, Mojave.
no, that's a really good point. I think, Wade, I mean, that's just, and there's a lot of people out there today that are actually really important people in this narrative and shaped careers and shaped, whole paths that don't really have any desire to, like claim any fame for it or anything like that. And because of that, like a lifetime of just being quiet and, you know, like, we've met like smugglers who like were known, and then we've met smugglers who like nobody knew, right? Who never went to jail, never got busted, never did anything, and like they just like quietly disappeared in a happy life on the island somewhere, no, I was just going to talk about Headband and how like Headband and Phylos and how these renaming of plants creates all these confusion, and then narratives are created about it, and then careers and paths are based off of all this assumptions, and it's all just because we lacked science, we lacked tools, we lacked being transparent at the time, and now like we're in this period where we all got to kind of go back in time and just do our best to tell the most accurate version and find people to corroborate that, because I know I know I have memories that aren't even mine sometimes. Like I've had memories where me and my brothers like shared memories where we thought we did something. I'm like, no, dude, that was me. Like, no, dude, that was me. I'm like, how can you have that same memory? You weren't even there, you know? And I think that that sometimes happens, with all of us as we age, something that happened 30, 40 years ago, we might have turned it into something completely different. But when we
Oh,
can, yeah, when we can, I think it's just good to tell. And that's been my whole thing about like, I still protect people, like the individuals who are involved in this business and in the whole prohibition era. They allowed their privacy. But in terms of like the plant story, whenever we can, we really should like make that more transparent, like how these plants got here, like who got them here and what happened and like just the other day, someone was telling me, and I never heard this, um, that that GDP had purple haze in it, and that there's a whole group of people out there that are now saying Urkel and GDP and all the things that came from that was a purple haze influence. And this was from a breeder, and he's like, oh no, no, and you can talk to this guy, this guy. He pointed out all the same guys who argue online about the stuff. And I'm like, dude, do you realize how that's a real stretch? And I don't really see how that, this is a real strong Afghani leaning plant. He's like, I know, I know, I know. But you take this and that, and then he showed me some beans that he'd popped from old school purple haze that he had from a collection that supposedly was valid, dating back at least to the early 80s. And he's like, look at that. And I'm like, wow, you're right. There's some interesting. And he's like, yeah, and that's what's got this whole new story going. And the reality is like we don't have a solid, for a lot of, Blue Dream, we don't really have a real strong narrative. OG Kush, the triangle, we know what part of it is. But the original guys, they're not, the full stories are still not told. And to me, it's like these are
Mhm.
the founding fathers that made the entire, or the founding mothers, I should say, that made the entire world, the ecosystem we live in. They're like, it's like, this is like so important. That's like what Caleb is like, he like lives and breathes this shit. And he takes it very seriously. And I think that that's really important. It's not just a silly internet troll thing. It's like, this is real, you know, ethnobotany, really,
Mhm. Yeah. One thing that that makes me think of that kind of just in my head lends credence to the like purple haze being in there perhaps is, there's everyone knows there's like two types of purpling, right? There's the cold induced one, and then there's the one where like it's there from the beginning and it's going to show up no matter what temperature that plant sees, whether indoor or outdoor. And like with the whole perps craze and GDP and all that, like it very much was that color. And I've asked many breeders like where they think these purpling genes came from, right? Like the cold induced purple, people seem point to the Afghanica. And then when it comes to like the purple that's there from the get-go, it's a question of like where. But in terms of like known purple cultivars or cultivar families or varieties or whatever, and like that specific gene that causes purpling from the get-go, like the oldest cultivars we know of that have that are actually not Afghanica based and are very much from equatorial regions. And, you know, I don't, you can kind of guess like purpling as a cold response might have like an evolutionary advantage. And then like purpling as like a constant thing might be some sort of like mutation that made it through or something that could be selected for. And like really just like and like the knowledge of what plants had those traits from periods, before there were photographs being published on the internet or from the period before the internet even existed. This is all information that really only breeders have and like know for sure. And like when it comes to like, was that trait dominant, recessive, and how they got it into a whole population, those are very much like a great example of these types of lores where we're tracking specific traits through different cultivar families even. And really love thinking about that kind of stuff.
yeah, I have an appreciation for it too. It always brings me back to the Mullumbimby madness from Mullumbimby in Australia, which is another just like, I met this guy who went by the Mullen Madman on Overgrow back in the day, and there's all these stories are up on IC Mag from Kanga Vita and all these different Australian growers. They tell the story, but this guy claimed that his dad was a part of the group that was just bringing in weed. There's weed, they'd get seeds from Colombia and all these different places, Thailand, and they were just kind of crossing these into this monster that became the Mullumbimby Madness, which was a really, I don't know how I got so lucky, but in literally like, he was one of my first bubble bag customers, so he'd end up sending me like Mullumbimby flour, Mullumbimby bubble hash, like Mullumbimby madness seeds. I have seeds from his father's stock from the late 70s, as well as seeds from his stock from the 90s. Just like super awesome shit. And it would be great to really have all of these cultivars like within reason nailed down on the history, even if there's side histories like, oh, this is kind of the main history, but there are these offshoots of possibilities that may have occurred. But I do think that it's not about, to me, people taking credit as much as people being like, if you played a part in the rung of that ladder, of that lineage, like, then your stair should have your name on it. It should be like, it's like, I want to know the order that this took to get here and how it got here. And it doesn't mean any one person's more important than the other, but it happened with the Congo out here as well, the red Congolese. And, it was apparently from La Mano Negra. And he went and collected it from Majorca down in the Congo in Africa. And then he brought it and gave it to Reefer Man, who took it over to the Sunshine Coast where they crossed it with something and it became the Roberts Creek Congo. So there's all these, there's the Romulan from back in the day, there's cultivars like the Sweet Skunk and the Grapefruit, which were kind of sold under Breeder Steve's menu, but he didn't breed those cultivars. They were clones that were, at least the Grapefruit was a clone that was given to him. So yeah, to find these unknown histories, very, very kind of cool. I like the idea of doing that work. I mean, I've always loved having Chris Bennett on the show. He's very much a cannabis historian, more on a global level. But I think the smaller, more recent last 30 to 40 years for genetics is pretty important, and it would be nice to just have it accurately portrayed, as accurate as possible. I do want to give a shout out to Joe Schmo and his family. I saw recently on Instagram that he had passed away there in California. I was devastated to see that. Yeah, shout out to his family, and I hope everyone's doing well there. Let us know if there's anything the Hash Church community can do for the Schmo family. And otherwise, I'm going to pull the trigger here today because it is Mother's Day. My wife and my two sons are on the other side of this door, anxiously awaiting a beautiful, wonderful vegetarian organic picnic that we're going to go have in the forest, not too far from where I live here. I do want to thank Ruben for coming on today and sharing with us. I'm going to film some videos with Ruben. I'm sure he'll be back on Hash Church as well. I want to thank Mojave for popping in and, bumping up the conversation with some great concepts. I really am telling you, dude, if your mama ever wants to do an even anonymous, no face involved, you let her know. Hash Church is the spot. We got her. We'll make her feel comfortable. We can do it just like we're doing with Rob. Curated, very specialized, small panel. Could be just you and her for that matter, whatever she likes. But give her our love for sure. Caleb, thanks for coming in last minute and sharing a little bit of what you're up to. Congratulations on graduating and really the life-changing events that you were able to have with Dominique and all these other people. So Wade, your words today, man, as always, were incredible. I'm going to go back and listen to them again. I love the way you talked about the relationship as a butterfly in your hand. You want to care for that thing gently. Don't try to hold on to it or you might crush the wings. Be open to it, taking off for a little bit, maybe flying around and coming back. But don't crush the wings. It's easy to have happen. Much love, Wade. Much love, Monica. All of you guys that are watching, we appreciate you so much. We will see you next weekend with a very special episode. We're going to have Mojave, we're going to have Fletcher, we're going to have Chimera, myself, and we'll be interviewing Robert Connell Clark. If you have any questions, get him ready for next week. He may answer some questions from the audience towards the end of the show. If you have a really important one, you're welcome to send it to me at bcbubbleman@icloud.com, and I can send it to the group, and we can decide whether or not it's going to get asked. But super excited about having Rob on next weekend. It is going to be a baller Hash Church, so don't miss out on that. Thanks everybody for watching. May the full melt bless your bowl sooner than later, and we'll catch you next week. Peace out.